Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to Birds 365, a Monday edition, overreaction Monday edition after the Eagles fall to 2-2 off a crushing loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and did not look pretty doing it. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, man?
I'm doing well. Better than most Eagles fans, I would imagine.
Yeah, Eagles Nation taking this loss hard. You know, I think about this loss, and we'll get into it, obviously, and I want to welcome everybody in. And first, before I do that, I want to thank BetUS, our exclusive sponsor of today's show for the 2-hour program. So thank you to BetUS for sponsoring the show. But I think, John, the reason that this loss hurts so bad, I mean, if you zoom out, you're like, hey, you're missing AJ, Devontae, and Lane. I mean,
yeah, that's it. Zoom out.
You're going to lose.
Out.
Your chances at winning are severely diminished when you lose those three players. I think it was the way in which this team lost that leaves fans very upset. And part of me really understands it. I mean, you spend money to go down there, and the team they laid a goose egg, John. They showed up unprepared. Yeah. I mean, they were down 24-0 in the blink of an eye, and it really
They were down 255 to nothing in total yardage.
I mean, it was a bad start.
Deep into the second quarter. Yeah, it's bad. I get you. The style points are bad on top of it. But at the end of the day, what I wrote is respect the talent, because in a weird way, I don't think Eagles fans do in a lot of circumstances and think you can just insert name and scheme it up. And I talked about it all off season with all this bullshit with Kellen Moore he's going to scheme it up. No, he's not. Respect the talent, and things go back to. And by the way, that's not a criticism of Kellen Moore. When you lose A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson, Ed Kratz and I had him as 1, 2, 3. A.J., Lane, and Devontae in that order is the best pure football players on this team. Guess what? You're not going to be as good. Should it have been better? Yes, you shouldn't start 255 to nothing and 24 to nothing and be completely run off the field like that, but at least they showed a little bit of perseverance. They got things going. I thought, hey, maybe they're back in the game 24-14. They got a chance to get off the field a couple times. They weren't able to do it from a defensive perspective. There's also the fact that was a weather game, and I think people don't think of they think of weather games like Green Bay in January or the Ice Bowl because that's football, right? Guess what? Mid-90s, 110 on the field. That's a weather game. And Tampa Bay's more used to it than Philadelphia, just like.
Well, that's obvious. But here's my pushback. Didn't Denver go in there last week and beat up on that team?
It wasn't like that. Weather-wise, it doesn't snow. It doesn't snow every day in Green Bay. But when it does in January and when it's -15, it's not like that every day in Florida.
No, I know, but and I'm sure you have. You've been to Florida in September. It's hot, Johnny.
Yeah. Now it's always hot, but there's a difference between regular Tampa hot and what was going on yesterday. It's not an excuse. It's just they're better prepared. They're more used to it, just like Green Bay's more used to it. In January, the cold weather. I don't know why anybody, it should be that a surprise for people, but you talk about go all the way back to one of the most hated games in Eagles history when Tampa Bay, the Joe Jurabishus game, the whole thing was Tampa Bay was they could not win a game in their entire history when it was under whatever it was, 40 degrees. They never won. And they eventually did win. But, it was a weather game, and they were going down like flies, and they were not prepared for it. And people can talk, and I hear a bunch of old school guys who played saying, in my day, blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? They collectively, but your day doesn't matter because they can't do two-a-days. They can't prepare these guys and run them into the ground and be all you can do is use the time allotted. So unless you can start at that point, I don't want to hear about when you played. It's not relevance.
A lot of our great listeners here, Johnny Mac, are checking in. A couple of them were down at the game. A bunch of them live in Florida. We do have a big listening base in Florida. They are saying very hot down there right now, no doubt. Look, I get it. I don't want to make that much of an excuse out of that, but
Well,
I
I'm
do
just saying
see
it was a weather game. I'm not.
impact,
No excuse. Both teams played in front. I'm saying for whatever reason, people understand Green Bay in January is a weather game. They don't understand Tampa or Miami on a day like that is a weather game. I saw it up live when the Dolphins for a joint practice with the Eagles a couple years ago, and it was a big joke at the time. Nobody cares about practice, but our buddy Elliot at Shore Parks would declare the Eagles practice champions, and they were undefeated in joint practices. That was the joke. And it was a brutal day down there, Zander. Brutal. I mean, heat, humidity, and the Dolphins have this beautiful new facility, and they're sitting there getting ready for practice in the air-conditioned indoor, and the Eagles are out stretching in the heat
right?
and the humidity. And in a practice setting, they got waxed. I mean, they got waxed by the Miami Dolphins.
No, there's no doubt, especially for a team like you mentioned, John. I mean, they live there. That's where that's where they're from. Obviously, that's where all of them live right now, and they play out most of their games there. So I do get that perspective, John. Let me ask you about the quarterback, because there's a lot of talk about Jalen Hurts, more than I expected coming out of that game. Like, I had a lot of problems with that game, and I didn't think Jalen Hurts was great, but it wasn't really anything I didn't know about Jalen. I mean, he struggles to elevate when his best players aren't out there. I've that's been a theme with Jalen. We talk about it when AJ Brown's out. There's a lot of talk right now about Jalen Hurts. I mean, there's a lot of talk on our channel, and maybe JAKIB Nation's not a good encaps a whole look at the Eagles fan base, but we got a lot of fans. We got a lot of Eagles fans that watch our network. I mean, we get a couple thousands of them, per hit. We get over 250,000 unique fans in the last 28 days. There's a lot of Hurts commentary out there. Your thoughts on Jalen Hurts coming out of that game is, are we learning more about Jalen? Are we starting to wonder, how good of a player he is and how far we can go with him at the helm?
I think it's fair. I think it's very fair to criticize. It was disappointing. I think you see some of the same stuff you've seen, and that's my concern. Is it's a good player. There's a lot of things he does very well, but I think you see a little bit of stagnation in his game from the standpoint of, anticipatory throws. There's a lot of, especially in college football, turn on every Saturday if you can get through it. It's a bad product, but there's a lot of throwing to open receivers. So, those windows close at the NFL level, and you have to throw guys open at times. You have to be more anticipatory. There's timing routes, or there should be timing routes. And the back foot's got to hit the ground. The ball's got to come out. You're not good at that stuff. And that's fine when he's younger, but now that he's played quite a bit, you'd like to see more improvement with that kind of stuff. Yeah, he was up against it, but, for many years, you see certain quarterbacks that, it's certainly not going to be the same, but you can get a little bit more out of your backup players. So I think that's fair. But he's the quarterback, and he's probably going to take more hits than he should today, just like the coach is. And that's part of it. Nick talks about it all the time. The coach and quarterback, they're going to get too much credit when they win, and they're going to get too much blame when they lose. And that's going to be the case on this overreaction Monday. But yeah, you can criticize him. I mean, I'd appreciate an apology for yelling at me for criticizing when he deserves criticism. Now you want to criticize him. And I'm joking. But yeah, it's fair. It's always fair to criticize the quarterback. Always.
Yeah, I think people are having the come to Jesus conversation of, look, I mean, we thought he was elite. He was a top paid guy for a hot week and whatever it was. And he took us to the Super Bowl. And, a lot of people continue to die on the Jalen is elite hill. And He's just proving he's not. He's a good player. I'm not saying he's not a good
player. He's a
player.
very good player.
Very good player.
And by the way, that's the silver lining here. Everybody's going to be back for Cleveland. And by everybody, I mean AJ, Devontae, and Lane. And it's going to be a different team out there. So, and that's where I say respect the talent and respect what wasn't on the field. And you know, that's where the fan base, if they expected more, now you can expect more than 255 to nothing. You can certainly expect more, but to think that they were just going to roll into Tampa Bay against a good team, not a great team, but a good team, coming off a bad loss. I mentioned all last week, I hated the spot in general. And I would have hated the spot even if they had those guys, to be honest. Would have been a much more competitive game, but I still hated the spot on the schedule because what happened with Tampa Bay. Yeah, it was, the loss was predictable, but I get your point about the style. The style points are even worse than expected.
Much worse.
And look, it doesn't matter style points, but I get why people are upset by it.
No doubt. John, your thoughts on the turnovers? I think that's the other big thing on Jalen Hurts right
Yeah,
now.
I saw a lot. Nick gave him a pass on the fumble. I saw a lot of people giving him a pass. I don't give him a pass on the fumble.
I don't give him a pass on that fumble at all. I saw that as well. I mean, a lot of people giving him.
I'm like, you got to be aware. I mean, the guy's not just because the guy goes behind you, that doesn't mean he stops. You know, and especially a player of that caliber, you got to be a little bit more aware of that. And you know, it's not the most egregious of his turnover. Still, the most egregious is throwing across his body against Green Bay.
Yeah,
in the end zone. That's the most egregious. When there were certain people that gave him a pass for that.
Oh.
Most didn't. Certainly in the building, they didn't. But I heard far too much. It wasn't. You know, he was a tick away from getting it out to Grand Calcaterra. Looked like he had a little bit of space, but whatever. That's bad. You don't just always behind me. You saw that a lot with Carson Wentz. Where
that's where I was going. I mean, and you heard, but I'm sure you saw on social media everybody talking about Carson Wentz-esque. I mean, it really was.
Yeah, Carson would hold on to the ball too long. Guy would go around him, come back, get him from behind, and there was it was very yeah. I mean, I don't pay much attention to that kind of stuff, but yeah, I get why people went there. That's where I went, and it was very, you know, you have to be more aware. You have to have a better pocket presence, and the sacks as well. A lot of pocket presence issues.
Yeah.
Now, you know, when I watch the all 22, I'm sure the receivers aren't getting open. I knew that before the game. But still, as a quarterback, and I talked about this with Frank Reich, who was honest about it back in the day. I mean, sometimes on a particular day, if you're an NFL quarterback, the offensive line might not be playing well. You know, you might be down a couple receivers, and the guys aren't getting separation. You got to find out a way to speed things up. You got to find out a way to get the ball to people, even if it's dumping it off, which we know is not a strength of this team. You got to find a way to figure it out and at least elevate some certain guys. And he's not that guy at this point. And there's no real evidence to point that he's going to be that guy. And by the way, you don't want evidence because you don't want to sit through numerous games with Paris Campbell as your best receiver. You know, and you want AJ and Devontae. And by the way, when they do get back, it's going to mask a lot of these issues. And
Yeah,
people are going to be happy again.
That's part of the worry as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's a worry because they're going to be good. It's just a matter of how good, but they're going to mask a lot of the issues. And you have to, and that's why I say respect the talent, because God forbid something happens to him again, you're going to be in the same boat.
We had John, I do the post game show coming off our show last night. We did a 90-minute show. You were on for the first hour and change, about an hour and 10. And I brought on some of our fans, some of the Eagles fans, some of JAKIB Nation. And they're great. They're it's great to talk to them. I like to get a pulse on some of the what other people are thinking. You know, one of the first guys I had on, he says, Jalen Hurts is bum juice. That's the
Bum
word
juice?
he used. Bum juice. That's what he said it 4 or 5 times. I'm like, oh my
I don't know
Lord.
what that means, but there's a
It means
lot.
not good, Johnny
Well,
Mac. It means,
yeah, I get that part. But there's a lot of quarterbacks worse than Jalen Hurts.
no, I know that. But did
I
you also
mean,
see that clip floating around of his 2020 highlights where he's literally just running all over the field. He's torching teams with his legs. He looks like a different player in the clip.
yeah, he doesn't look as athletic as he did early in his career. Maybe that's just, the
Yeah, I think that's
accumulation of
also part
hits.
of why he's not been a great player or not an elite player
Nah,
anymore. It's because he doesn't have that.
that doesn't speak to the pocket press. Like you have to. That's going to happen to everybody. You see right now, Jaden Daniels is you know the talk of the league, right? Look, the way he plays, he's going to get banged up at some point. They went through this with RG3. I think people forget RG3 was phenomenal as a rookie and hurt his knee in the playoff game, and that was it. And I hope that doesn't happen with Jaden Daniels because people that watch this show
Yeah,
know
no,
I said he should be the #1 overall pick. He was the best quarterback. He was much better
yeah.
than Caden.
Well, forget about the league talking about him for a second, John. They're the number 1 team in the
Yeah.
NFC East right now.
Yeah, and he's doing a phenomenal. He's tough to deal with. He is really tough to deal with. But he plays a style where he's going to get hit if he continues to play that style. And even if you're playing like Jalen Hurts has had incredible durability for the most part, you've seen it when he got hurt in Chicago. Had to miss a few games that time, but you've seen it when he's hurt his ankle, and he's still playing, but he's not as effective. And that will happen to Jaden Daniels as well at some point, hopefully. He's able to persevere with the other stuff. And the other stuff is more important to me when it comes to the pocket presence, the early flushing of the pocket, the he doesn't climb the pocket as much, the anticipatory throws, throwing guys open, timing routes, things like that. That needs to be elevated. And I don't see the elevation to where you want it at this stage, or the improvement where you want it at this particular stage. But he's still a good player, still a really good player. And he's still tough to deal with. And that's what I was hoping for in yesterday's game when they cut it to 24-14. I always say, no matter how poorly Jalen is playing on a normal game day, you got to play for 60 minutes, even if he doesn't have his fastball, his ace stuff. If you want to make the baseball analogy, you got to play for 60 minutes. Tampa really didn't have to play for 60 minutes. They had to play for 22 minutes, and the game was out of reach.
24-0, and it should have been 28-0. Baker Mayfield put the ball right on the
drop
money,
pass,
and it was a drop pass. Yeah, really should.
Now they cut it to Saquon had the big play, and they cut it to 24-14 early in the second half, and you thought maybe there was a little bit of a moment, but the defense, we got to get to the defense too, because that is an abject disaster.
Let's go there real quick. Just your thoughts on their performance yesterday. It wasn't pretty.
Yeah, they went back to their typical way of playing defense, and it hasn't been pretty, especially when the nickel's on the field and they have the 4-man front and the nickel. They just been bad. Couple, things hide it. They've been able to get off the field on third downs, the red zone defense, a little bit masking some of how bad they've been in a general sense. That sort of escaped when they had a chance to get off the field, as I mentioned, cut it to 24-14. They had a 3rd and 7 and a 3rd and 11 on Tampa's next drive, which Tampa ended up scoring. On the first set of downs, they had a 3rd and 7. They let Mayfield get loose for a 10-yard scramble for a first down. And then even after that, they had him at 3rd and 11. And you say, all right, here we go. Here's Big Manjo. Get him off the field. who knows? He might turn it into a game. And I think it was Chris Godwin who had a 14, 15-yard catch on
Yeah.
Isaiah Rodgers. So
Was that the one that Baker Mayfield was rolling to the right?
I haven't looked at it again.
That was a tremendous play by Baker as well. Great catch by Godwin.
And Godwin's having a great season, but still 3rd and 11. Bottom line, get off the field.
Gotta get off the
find
field.
a way to get off the field, and you might get back in the game because at that point, and I used the Vikings Green Bay game. I mean, the Vikings had a 28-point lead in that game. And when the snowball starts going the other way, and it started going the other way for Green Bay, all of a sudden the team that had the big lead is the one that gets tight because they're like, oh boy, we're blowing this. And I think the Eagles were in a position to put that doubt in Tampa Bay's mind, and they weren't able to do it. The defense was just terrible. Terrible.
John,
everything about it.
I'm gonna say this is gonna be right now my statement through 4 weeks of the year on that defensive line. Brandon Graham is the best player on our defensive line, and I'll tell you why. Because when you have a guy that's as talented as Jalen Carter, but you wake up and it's like, oh, I hope we get the good Jalen Carter today, and I hope we get Jordan Davis that shows up today. How do you rely on players like that? How do you build a defense around guys that are so inconsistent? Show up not just show up, dominate 1 week, and then do nothing the next week.
No, I'm with you. I agree.
I mean, Brandon Graham, at least I know what I'm getting every week. Every single week, I know what Brandon Graham's going to bring to the table. And sometimes he brings more than you expect. You can't build a defense on Jalen Carter when he's up and down, up and down. It's like the theme of this team, man. The highs are high and the lows are low.
That's the key to being a great player, consistency. I mean, a lot of guys have top-tier talent in the NFL, but they don't have top-tier consistency. Jalen Carter is in that group. And he can't be in the group that people want him in, and people want to compare him to the best defensive tackles in the game. He can't be in that group until he gains some consistency. So when you're talking about Dexter Lawrence, who's on a bad football team, but these are the guys you're talking. Chris Jones, you saw him. People saw him last night.
Dude, beast.
That is what you're looking for. That is what you're looking for from week to week to week, and he's not that. He's got the ceiling of those types of players, but he doesn't have the consistency of those types of players.
Not at all. Let's get to our super chats. We're waiting on Jeff Kerr is going to join us, and then we'll have Chris Franklin in hour number 2. I do want to run through these. Big shout out to Brian Garner for becoming a new member today. Brian, thank you for your support of the channel, man. We appreciate that very much. And then Brian also dropped in 2 super chats. Brian, I'm going to get to them in a second. Let's go to our man, Alexander Harris. Drops us $20. Alexander, thank you for your support, man. Appreciate it. He says he's making the same mistakes over, I guess he's speaking about Jalen here, over and over. And even though he was missing his top targets, Paris, Dotson, Ross have played this game, so he shouldn't be this bad. Tom elevated players. Peyton elevated players. Hurts does not. That's the realization, John, that people are having. And I don't think you should compare, anybody.
I wouldn't compare too many to Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. But I get your point. He's not elevating players, but that's a bad group of receivers. I'm sorry. That is a bad group of receivers. And that's a Howie Roseman issue. Now, part of it is, look, you pay so much to the guys who are so good, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, it's hard to and they tried to go a different route and get Jahan Dotson. But again, everybody's spiking the football on that trade. I'm like, be careful. Adam Peter's a smart guy. And, he's willing to give up the guy in the division. That set off, I talked about it the day of the trade. That set off some signs for me. I go, well, what's going on here? And he doesn't look good. I was talking about the college game. If you watch the college game again, if you can get through it, all you see is bubble tunnel, smoke screens, blah, 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 all over and over and over again to the point it's unwatchable to me. But there's so many guys like Jahan Dotson that can make plays in space at the college level. And then they get to the pro level and it's about, Well, you better learn to run a route to get open and to get separation. And if you
Yeah.
can't do that, you're not going to be consistent. Same thing we're talking about with Jalen Carter. You're not going to be a consistently good receiver. And there's so many. I'm not picking on him, but he's clearly not what Eagles fans expected him to be because he was the 16th overall pick in the draft. And then don't even get me started with John Ross hasn't played an NFL game since 2021. Johnny Wilson is a 6th-round pick that can't run in a league where every cornerback can run. And by run, I don't mean run like me, run like an NFL player. You know, there were so many teams thinking about drafting Johnny Wilson, thinking about moving him to tight end for a reason. Now, the Eagles see something different, but they see something different as far as helping the running game,
Right.
maybe the occasional back shoulder throw, maybe a red zone threat on a 50-50 ball, not 70 plays getting open consistently. And if that's what you expect, that's on you as a fan base. And then who am I missing?
Yeah.
I mean,
point proven. I think what's being shattered though, John, is in many Eagles fans' minds, and I'm guilty of it as well. We wanted to believe. Not only did we want to believe, but we thought we saw with our own eyes, and then we were sold, constantly by the team and everybody that this guy was elite. And I think that's the realization.
Jalen?
Yeah, Jalen.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the team does that. He's a very good player.
I just think being a fan of the team,
I think it becomes this out. Look, they made it to the Super Bowl. He outplayed the best player in football on the biggest stage. And, I always talk about the NFL moves quickly. So the minute you think you have it solved, they're going to change. Everybody spent that off season trying to work on what the hell are we going to do with Jalen Hurts? And they come back and they make adjustments and they make it more difficult. And the adjustments back to that have not been where you wanted to keep him at that level that he was at in the Super Bowl. But he's still a good player. He's still a good player. Is he an elite player? Look, NFL teams don't talk about things that way. So it's not the Eagles calling them elite. Is he an elite quarterback? No. Is he a very good quarterback? Yes. But even that's dependent on my definition and your definition.
Right.
Is elite top 10?
No.
And in my estimation, it's not. To some, it is. And he's kind of a bridge quarterback in, top 10 somewhere. Good season, probably 9, 10. Bad season, probably 11, 12. And I expected a little bit more by this point.
Let's get to real quick. Let's run through these super chats. I want to get to Jeff Kerr. Jeff, thanks for checking in, brother. I see you in the green room. We'll get to you in just a second. Brian Garner checks in. Jalen holds the ball too long and doesn't look explosive when running. Also, Kenny Gainwell can't recognize, pick up the blitz. Yeah, I agree with that. But just quick reaction there, John, to Brian. I want to roll through these supers. And then he also said, real quick, so you can answer both at once. I think the league has caught up to Vic's scheme. Also, when Huff is shuffling.
I've been saying that for years. They caught up to that 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But well, first of all, I think people don't realize, and that's one of the strengths of Saquon Barkley as a pass protector. There are very few running backs that pick up.
He is really good at it, Saquon.
Well, and ironically, he missed the block on Levante David, or at least had some troubles where.
Well, that was a creative blitz though from.
It was, but
it looked
that's
like he was
why
bringing pressure on the edges, and then they dropped back, and David came up the middle. That was a good blitz.
Yeah, but that's why the Eagles are kind of taking that one off Jalen Hurts' plate, which, by the way, I don't agree with. But Saquon's much better than most. There are very few backs who are good pass protectors, and yes, Kenny is not one of them. But that's normal. As far as big scheme, I've been talking about it for years. Yeah, I mean, it happens to every scheme. It happened to Tony Dungy, Hall of Fame coach. Happened to Pete Carroll, going to be a Hall of Fame coach. It's happened to Vic. And boy, when he rolls out the nickel, like I said this year, and it's not working. It's not working. And, he's evolved in the past. Hopefully he can evolve again. He needs to start taking better advantage of the talent he does have. Right now, it strikes me as, the square peg in the round hole. He's trying to fit players into what he wants to do. I think he's got to figure out what the players he does have. I think he's got to figure out what they do well.
Let's get to our commercial break. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Great crowd in here this morning. So thank you guys for being in here. Hit that like button. We're going to get to our commercial break. Before I do that, real quick, let me tell you about our great friends at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. They've launched a new promo you'll see on your screen right now. It's using the code YouTube150. And you get 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, and then you get 125% on your second and third deposits, all up to $2,000. So you can deposit less and bet with more. BetUS has the fastest payouts in the industry. They have 24/7 customer support, and you'll even get your own custom account manager to help you through any bets or navigate their website if you need. So go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa and use that promo code YouTube150. Birds365, back in 3 minutes.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid. Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood day.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Follow Jeff at Jeff Kerr CBS. Jeff, welcome to the show, man. A tough loss for the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. The fans are reeling. What's your initial thoughts on that game yesterday as you joined the show today?
Fans of unrealistic expectations of their football team. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, what I said, Jeff, respect the talent. Look, I think it's ridiculous that you lose A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Lane Johnson. And we'll figure out. We'll scheme it up. Off season, everybody's like, well, Kellen Moore will do this and Kellen Moore will do that. And Kellen Moore's a very good offensive coordinator. This is not a criticism of Kellen Moore. Respect the talent. They mean more. Nobody's motioning to scheme open Paris Campbell
Or
in the
Jahan
20
Dotson.
Oh yeah, or Jahan Dotson in the 2024 NFL. I mean, and the funny part is, after the bye, everything will go back to normal. This will be a good football team. Then it becomes the question of how good, and can Jalen Hurts elevate his game, and are you playing good football at the end of the season? You do have to start worrying about Washington a little bit more than I expected. So, maybe you don't have the gimme path to the playoffs as most expected, but this is going to be a good team when AJ and Devontae and Lane are back out there.
Yeah. John, I kind of wrote off this game the second Lane Johnson was down from questionable to out. A lot of people like to waste their ink on Fred Johnson last week, and rightfully so. I'm not criticizing anybody for
Fred. Come on, that's a good story.
He allowed 9 pressures yesterday. He was terrible. He was terrible last week. People just didn't want to admit it.
Still a good story.
It's a good story. I like Fred Johnson.
I'll give you credit because you said that last week when everybody was kind of giving him some flowers.
What flowers? You gave up 5 pressures in 18 pass blocking snaps. That's not good. That's replaceable. It is. And Fred Johnson played well. No, he didn't. Tyler Steen played well. Fred Johnson did not play well.
Well, I was not in the Fred played well camp.
Oh, I know you weren't. I'm just saying. I heard enough last week, and I'm just like, no, you're gonna find out this week.
Jeff, you come on and you start with, and I it's fair. I see what you're saying, but you come on and say with unfair expectations, and this would be my pushback because I get you're probably leaning offensive side when you say that you're missing Lane, AJ, Devontae. I get it. Your offense isn't going to look.
They have unrealistic expectations on their quarterback.
Jeff, what about the defense? You have 11.
I know the defense.
11 missed tackles yesterday, Jeff. They didn't even get off the bus, man. Like if you're an Eagles fan and you spend money to go down to Tampa and you spend money on jerseys and things.
Well, that's your problem. That is your problem.
I know, but that's why they're upset. So they're saying
yeah, we got. I like overreaction, Jeff.
Yeah,
I love it.
This is my. You want to have an issue with this football team? These are my issues. Devin White retweeting Levante David, who he's friends with, sacking the score. I know, but. It's a bad. Oh, and Darius Slay said 150 pass breakups, 150. That's your captain of your football team, and you're boasting about yourself.
Well, to be fair, I ripped. When our captains came out, and I saw. Look, I like Jake Elliott. Don't get me wrong. You replaced Devontae Smith with Jake Elliott. I said, who's making these decisions? I like Jake Elliott and everything, but why'd you take Devontae Smith off the captaincy?
Honestly, Zander, the things that get me upset with them is we have our moments. That sort of stuff. Like, I don't care if those two get along or not. Don't openly admit it. Oh, by the way, Jalen, you're at fault too because you don't know how to take care of the football if your life depended on it. So that's what I got.
Yeah, but one more pushback, and it's all in good fun. I'm not trying.
Yeah, this is all good fun.
11 missed tackle, and you're more mad about the Devin White tweet. I don't give a shit. Devin White likes his friend Levante David. By the way, great play by Levante David. Can you even blame Devin? Levante David was a force yesterday. 11 missed tackles on defense. They didn't get off the bus.
They never get off the bus. Last week was a mirage. What you saw yesterday is really what they are. Bryce Huff isn't good. He can't get to the pass. Brandon Graham is their best defensive.
That's exactly what I said in segment 1.
At age 36. That's the truth. Jalen Carter makes plays. He does. But you don't see that consistently. I don't need to go too deep on how bad Nakobe Dean was yesterday. I think we all could see that.
Nakobe was really bad.
Yeah, he was bad yesterday. And the thing is,
and I thought Nakobe had a very good summer. I'm very honest about it. He deserved to win the job. He won the job, but he is not playing well.
And the thing is, Sean, do you go back to Devin White? Will he even be on this team next week?
Yeah. No, I don't.
Seems like that ship is set. I'm not sure. I'm not in the room, John.
Yeah, but the thing is about Devin White can't play either. We've been trying to tell people like that. They don't believe it because he was the 5th pick, but whatever reason. Now, Doug Farrar put out a tweet yesterday. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was this bad.
It was really bad.
The Eagles have had no cornerbacks and press covers on 88% of their snaps, by far the NFL's highest rates. And he said, I'm not sure how you expect to play modern defense that way. I kind of agree with him. Now, look, sometimes you have corners who are good at press, corners who aren't good at press. In theory, Quinyon Mitchell obviously played a lot of zone at Toledo, and that's the strength of his game, eyes on the quarterback and things like that. But he's got the athleticism to play press. You're supposed to develop these players as well.
I think Slay can still do it.
Slay's been one of the best press cover corners in the NFL for years and years and years. 88%, Vic Fangio?
That is insane.
You know what, John? It's almost like they got rid of the defensive coordinator last year, but they never really changed the defense.
Well, that's true. I mean, I haven't changed the defense at all since Nick Sirianni got here. And by the way, Jonathan Gannon looks better every single day doing anything with this garbage scheme. It's ironic. New Orleans in a weird way, because everybody said, look at how explosive New Orleans is. But they play 12 personnel. They play action. They want to run outside zone, old school, Gary Kubiak, Mike Shanahan football. And you can play those 5 and 6 man fronts. And that is better for the Eagles. When they got to play that 4-man front, rush the passer and cover, they're a disaster.
I could tell, like, in the first 2-3 plays of that game yesterday, I'm like, they're in trouble, because Baker's getting rid of the ball quick. Liam Cohn was scheming it up. He's got 2 receivers that can force you to miss tackles. It was a problem.
By the way, how many passes did Tampa drop?
At least 5.
I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been.
It should have been worse. I mean, it should have been 28-0.
I mean, can we just call a spade and just realize the Bucs own the Eagles?
They do.
Well, that's part of it too.
I just get tired of hearing Bucs are a poverty franchise every time I turn on X. I'm like, no, they're not, because they own the Eagles. They
do, and they've knocked us out of the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years.
Yeah. They closed the stadium down. Like, are fans that young? They don't remember that now?
Yeah.
Well,
your thoughts on Jalen Hurts? Because look, like I was saying to John, and I consume most of what JAKIB Nation talks about in our chat and on our comments. We get thousands of them on our channel. So I'm not saying it's the whole fan base, but I think we have a pretty good portion of fans on our channel. I've never seen so much Jalen Hurts doubt right now coming from the fans. They've always been a large percentage of people who rode with the quarterback, who said, a lot of people are hating on him, all these things, and I get it, but where are you on Jalen Hurts? The turnovers are mounting like crazy. I mean, just doesn't look like the same guy right now to me. Your thoughts on Jalen Hurts, 2-2 going into the bye week?
He has his moments.
Yeah. I got to push back on that. I'm like, and I get killed when I criticize Jalen Hurts, but now I guess it's okay, which I think the people overreact to the point. Again, I will say it in plain as I can. Jahan Dotson, Paris Campbell, John Ross, Johnny Wilson. What the F are you expecting?
I was at the Penn State game Saturday night. I truly believe Penn State might have had 2 or 3 better receivers than 2 of the 3 receivers Eagles put out.
I watched Alabama, Georgia, and
I was going to say, they have a 17-year-old that's better.
The 17-year-old wide receiver on the field for Alabama.
Yeah, well, I didn't watch either of those games, so I'm not going to talk about that game specifically, but I've already talked about the college game specifically. The college game is responsible for Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson has tremendous, as you know, Jeff, as a Penn State guy, tremendous athleticism.
He does.
But you play that bullshit style of college football where every other play is tunnel, bubbles, some kind of screen, and you get a guy in space, and then he gets to the NFL level and says, oh, by the way, now you got to run real routes, and they're not prepared.
Yeah, he can't do it. He played 49 snaps yesterday, got 4 targets. Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and there's certain, and that's why you look at, when I look at receivers, but when personnel people look at receivers, They look at the guys who are more advanced running routes. Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith came here as a finished product. Justin Jefferson.
Chris Olave came to the
Chris
NFL.
Olave. Yeah. So that's the guys you should focus on, but everybody gets enthralled by the athleticism and say, oh, look at this guy took a 3-yard hitch and went 75 yards in college. Who gives a shit? He ain't doing that at the NFL level.
Because they're tackling him or he doesn't make the
play. Maybe not the Eagles. They miss 12
I think's been getting criticized the most from what I've seen on social media? Howie Roseman, based on the recent moves he's made. Bryce Huff and Jahan Dotson and what he's given up for these guys. And they're like, well, what are they doing?
I don't know.
Well, that's where I was going next. We're talking about Jahan Dotson like he's a poverty player. We just sent a 3rd-round pick for him a month ago.
He overpaid.
Yeah, I know that. But that's
away.
Why there's an expectation among the fans. This is why we traded for Dot. We sent a 3rd, which is a premium draft pick, a day 2 pick for Jahan Dotson. Yeah. The dude stinks.
My issue is
better than Jahan Dotson.
My issue is the last time I was on this show, John Ross was not on this football team. He was active on Sunday. That tells you all you need to know.
That's fair. I'm not going to push back on that. I'm speaking.
No, but I agree with you with the Jahan Dotson thing. As a fan, you should expect better.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Well, on Bryce Huff, and I brought this up on our pregame show. I think one of them might have been the post game. I don't know. Did you see Rich Cimini? Rich Cimini made some news. He covers the Jets for the ESPN.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I saw
and
that.
He was talking about the goofy. I'm not talking about the trade part of it. That's not happening. Reddick for up. That's just stupid. But he was talking about Huff as a player. And this is the indicator, because I know a bunch of New York writers, both with the Giants and the Jets, and they all think Bryce Huff can play. And here's what Rich said. I don't think it's an indictment on Huff. I mean, we know he's a good player. And so I do believe the Jets made a mistake by letting him go. It's just that he's not a good fit in the Eagles system. And clearly, Vic Fangio, their defensive coordinator, has not embraced Huff. And so that's on the Eagles. They screwed up the signing. They've taken a good player and they're misusing him. I kind of agree with Rich. I hear this all the time that Bryce can't play. He already did play. He in a limited fashion, the one-trick pony, which I freely admit, but he had a hell of a trick. And the Eagles
he was second in pass rusher percentage last year.
Yeah, and it wasn't just 1 year, it was 2 years. It was 2 years.
My issue with it was I didn't have a problem with the signing. I had a problem with who you got rid of to bring the signing in. I thought he would have been better with the sign. But again, also what I know,
get rid of Hassan. That's another thing. They didn't trade. It wasn't a trade, but it wasn't the idea of, oh, we're going to replace Hassan Reddick with Bryce Huff. It was, we're not paying Hassan Reddick $25 million. So who can we get? Because he's not willing to pay. If he wanted to play on the final year of his deal, he'd be here. They wouldn't have traded him.
Yeah, but he didn't want to do that. And now he's still not playing.
Yeah. So it wasn't about they replaced him. I see that so many times. They replaced Reddick with Huff. No, they said, all right, I'm not paying this guy $25 million, so we got to go in a different direction. Then what do we do?
Well, now, the evaluation was wrong, John. It's not.
Was it, or is this Vic Fangio not taking advantage of the skill set of his player?
So do you think Hassan Reddick would be struggling in this scheme as well?
Yes. Not to the degree of Bryce Huff, but yes.
Okay.
Hassan Reddick can't cover, can't flat. People would lose their minds.
They lost it last year when he covered people.
When Jonathan Gannon would drop him in the coverage. And nobody dropped Hassan less into coverage than Jonathan Gannon during his career. And people would lose their mind when he did it. Vic would do it more. Vic would ask him to set the edge and make that more of a priority, which is not his strength. No, he's a better player. I'm not saying he's a better player than Bryce Huff. There's no question about that. It wouldn't be sunk to the depths they are now. But he would not be the same player that he was early in his career with the Eagles. And, he had a career year, obviously. It was going to be difficult to replicate that year no matter what in the Super Bowl season. But, yeah, Vic asks too much of these guys. Or he wants well-rounded players. And guess what? They're not well-rounded. So why don't you use what they do well and try to mask what they don't do as well? That's my argument.
That's where I blame the coaching. Now, I did not defend Nick yesterday, but people took it as such because, Twitter. I put PSA, just so you guys know, I forget how I worded it, but a coach isn't responsible for players' lack of execution. And it was in response to a dime Jalen Hurts through the Dallas Goedert, and he just flat out dropped it. That can't happen. Jalen Hurts rolling out, and Saquon Barkley's wide open on the first play, and you don't hit him.
Yeah, I don't think
I
he was.
forgot. That's Nick's fault. I forgot.
By the way, I saw the somebody put it up. I wish I give him credit, but somebody already put up he wasn't open. That was a TV
I didn't
view.
think he was either. Yeah,
that was a TV view, and it was he was open very late after the guy dropped him. Through the relevant portion of the play, it was actually very good coverage. And then at the very end, they just dropped him because they knew they could drop him.
Yeah.
And that's one of those, you watch it on TV. I thought the same thing. He's open. He wasn't open.
Yeah.
So and
maybe because Tom Brady's comments too, because I think Brady was thinking I'm a quarterback there. Maybe I would have done. But that's not the play I was really critical. It was Dallas Goedert dropping the pass. I'm like, look, your offense is struggling. You have to be near perfect on a day like yesterday. And Dallas Goedert, you just get, and he admitted as such, can't drop that pass. And he did. But, that's Nick Sirianni's fault. That's Kellen Moore's fault. No, it's not. That's Dallas Goedert's fault. He dropped the pass. Start blaming players. I'm not defending Nick Sirianni.
I said that I'm like, man. I mean, now in certain games now, people are starting to evidently turn on Jalen Hurts a little bit, but it's always the coach. Look, you have Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. So what's the excuse now?
Exactly. Well, you know what, John? I used to say this with Joel Embiid. Okay, you got Brett Brown gone. Okay, now there's Doc Rivers. Okay, he's gone. Now there's Nick Nurse. Same issue.
Same issue here. I'm looking at Brian Johnson. And I know he's not the offensive coordinator. He's the passing game coordinator and the QB's coach in Washington. How's Jaden Daniels look right now?
Pretty good. But can Cliff sustain it? That's the issue with Cliff. But Cliff's a good coach. He's a good coach. I agree with you, Zander. That's where, again, this is where everything upsets me with people's evaluation. Oh, it's Nick's. I'm like, look, you can blame Nick Sirianni for a lot of stuff yesterday. Do not be blaming him because all of a sudden you want to spew the narrative that Nick's calling the plays.
Yeah, well, people want to blame everything on Nick, which is fine.
It's more than
keep
fine.
it on. But this was the whole thing. Oh, now you have coordinators, and you do. You have very good coordinators, but Kellen Moore can't overcome Paris Campbell, John Ross, throwing those people out there. He can't scheme them open. Motion isn't going to, blow up anyone's head, Levante David's head, and say, "What are they doing?"
And Levante David, future Hall of Famer Levante
David. It's just insanity. It's talent first, and by the way, when AJ and Devontae and Lane, you'll think they're great again.
Yep.
And they'll probably will be great again for vast swaths of time. But it's that you're on that precipice of all times. If you lose the good players, you're going to be in trouble, and nobody's going to scheme it up, and nobody's going to help you scheme it up. A coach is, if you got a 5-win roster, a good coach turns them into 6 or 7-win roster. That's it. That's it.
my favorite
maybe a
was
bad
when
coach,
I
maybe a
heard-
coach turns
Yeah, but
5
isn't
into
that a
3.
double-edged sword, John? Because you just got done telling me that they're not using their players the right way.
Yes. You're that's what a good coach does. So that's what turns the 7-win roster into a 9-win roster.
Okay.
And
That's why
that's
Dan
what
Campbell's
turns
a good coach.
and that's what turns the 7-win roster into a 5-win roster if you're a bad coach. Yeah. And you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
I was trying to be as realistic as I could. I'm like, look, Paris Campbell was cut by this team. There's a reason they cut him. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
John
Paris
Ross
Campbell. Paris Campbell's been in this league for what, 6 years?
6 years.
5,
This is 6 years.
6 year. What do people think is happening? Oh, the first 5 years they didn't utilize him correctly in Indianapolis or the Giants.
He was the second round pick. He was part of the whole. I can't believe this team passed on DK Metcalf for my guy. You know, it was the Eagles took JJ Arcega-Whiteside. The Colts took Paris Campbell. The Cardinals took Andy Isabella, and DK Metcalf went after him. So he was part of that contingent.
Yeah. And the Eagles, you know, that's one of the laughable ones for me is that, you know, the Eagles, the scouts wanted Paris Campbell, but Jeffrey Lurie wanted JJ Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah,
well, who cares?
so you picked a bad player anyway.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah, he's a little bit better than JJ. So, yeah, but ultimately, who cares?
And it's like we said about Johnny Wilson before I came on. I mean, he was a 6th round pick.
Yeah. Oh God, don't even get me started about Johnny Wilson. I try to shut people down. I'm like, I don't know what they're expecting. I mean, he's Joseph Nada with, you know, Sideshow Bob hair. That's what he is. He's not getting separation.
So Jeff, you're not concerned with Jalen Hurts just because of who he had around him yesterday?
I'm concerned about Jalen Hurts turning the football over, which I've been concerned about. He turns it over. He's a turnover machine. That's literally what he does. He turns the football over all the time.
I think he's second in the league right now in this year.
Three times in the red zone, he turns it over. And they're bad turnovers. That's what concerns me. I'm in the camp of John. I think he's a good player. I don't think he's elite. I don't think he's better than a Dak Prescott per se, but I think he can be a top 10 quarterback. And
I mean, look, these are the last 5 super chats from our viewers. Jalen Hurts is not a franchise QB without God and country on the outside.
Near is Josh Allen. I hate to tell you that.
I don't know about that.
I disagree.
I disagree with that.
I'm not the day to do it.
Alexander, this is funny. Matt Stafford can keep the Rams competitive. Both his top receivers are missing. Hurts can't do the same. Jaden Daniels playing better.
Matthew Stafford is coached by Sean McVay.
Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. Now he's older. I used to have this argument with Jody all the time. He was great in Detroit. Nobody realized it because they had such a shitty team.
I agree with John. I agree with both Johns.
I think it's the expectation though that Jalen was as good as some of those guys, and it's being shattered right now.
And they have the right to think that he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but people have to understand it's one game, and he was the best player on the field in the biggest game of the year, and he was. But that doesn't mean. Again, I talked about with Jalen Carter. If you look at the upside of Jalen Carter against New Orleans, you'd say that's the best defensive tackle in football. He was on that day. He isn't on most days because the consistency is not there yet. You know, Jalen Hurts had a spectacular game on the biggest stage and should be lauded for it. But, you know, consistently, he's not with the Patrick Mahomeses and the Josh Allens and whomever else you want to throw up there.
Lamar's on that list.
Lamar, 2-time MVP. He's not in that group on a consistent basis. When he's playing his best, can he be there for a short period? Yes.
Yeah, but isn't this a completely different player than who he was in 20? Like they don't try and use him the same. I don't think he's capable of the same. Not a knock on him.
He's really good at his job too.
Well, he was, but I mean, now we have another revolving door at offensive coordinator, and it's like, are we going to make the same excuse at offensive coordinator every time? You know, this is not the same. And look, Jalen was fantastic in 22. I called for him to be the MVP of the league. That was my prediction before the season started, right here on JAKIB. So I thought the guy was great, but
if he didn't get hurt, he would have been.
He didn't play. He's not playing the same style of football right now. He's not being asked to, and I don't think he's capable of it because I think his body's taking some hits and he doesn't move the same.
That part I agree with. He doesn't move as well as he did earlier in his career. And that's just part of it. You gotta, that happens to everybody.
You guys think there's exterior factors here with him? Like, look, even in yesterday's press conference, and that's what's blowing up today on the national media show. We have our moments. That's what's blowing up today because Jalen can't help himself. It's funny. He always wants to get a certain message out. Do you think that's a message?
Give it to me again.
It was one of those long-winded questions, John, and it was about him and Nick Sirianni and their communication or something like that. And he's like, we have.
Oh, it has. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did hear that. I don't think they, and it shouldn't be a surprise. I mean, they don't work as closely. I don't think Nick's as relevant as in Jalen's day-to-day life as he once was. I don't think that's a good thing because he's the head coach of the football team. But, I think that's a Jeffrey Lurie problem. I've been very consistent with that. I don't like the setup. I haven't liked the setup from day one when they set it up. And you have these little fiefdoms of Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore. And then you have Nick Sirianni, putting his signature in a lot of ways. And I give Groats, our old buddy Bob Groats, credit for this. He's become Roger Goodell for the Eagles. What Roger Goodell is for the NFL.
I love that comp. I think it's so true.
He's a lightning rod. He's there to take all the heat. And he's taking all the heat. And he's there to deflect things.
I just think it's funny how proactive Jeffrey Lurie, who experienced this his first year as an owner. The Eagles controversially kept Rich Kotite after they started 4-0 in 93, and they won all their games, kind of like the Chiefs are doing right now by like 7 points or less. And Randall Cunningham got hurt, and shit just hit the fan, and they were 8-8, and they wanted to fire Kotite. They didn't. Lurie took over the team. They did the same shit. They started 7-2. They looked like they were a Super Bowl team, lost the 49ers, and they just lose 7 straight to end the year. It just feels like 94 to me. It does. It's the same story. It's why did you keep this guy? I feel like they had to over-explain why they kept the guy. And they had every right to do it, but I feel like they're over-explaining why.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, I think he should have signed. I say it all the time. He should have shown the courage of his convictions. I would have kept Nick Sirianni for, that for the reasons that are obvious. Made the Super Bowl, 3 consecutive playoff berths, best record in franchise history as a head coach. I mean, that's good enough for me to give him a mulligan coming off, acknowledging how bad the collapse was last year. That's the way I would have went. In Jeffrey's case, he tried to straddle the fence. Ultimately, that's the way he won, but he took some power away from Nick Sirianni, even if they won't admit it publicly.
Yeah, which doesn't help Nick Sirianni.
No.
Like, let Nick fix his issues. And you didn't, and his future doesn't look that great right now.
No. So my point is, show the courage of your convictions. If you want to fire him, but don't straddle the fence. You either need to give him the mulligan and let him be in charge, or go in a different direction.
Yeah. What if Nick wanted to hire Cliff Kingsbury and they said no?
It's possible. And Jeff, John, credit to you because you've been talking about this all summer. This setup is atrocious, and it starts from the top.
Yeah, it doesn't work. They think this is my issue with a franchise like the Eagles. The Eagles love to toot their horn and think they're the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had that. You had all of this. You had an Andy Reid type system. and you decided, no, we're better than that. And it worked. But don't compare yourselves to them now, because that's not it.
Well, Jeffrey and Howie, I'm firmly convinced they think they're most responsible for the Lombardi Trophy.
Oh, they do.
And now they do anything to keep control, and I think that's part of the reason Nick Sirianni's back. They knew that they got control in there.
Do they know that the Baltimore Ravens don't have years like they do? Like where you just bottom out, and then I swear it's like a divide and conquer thing. It's like, all right, we fixed it. No, the Kansas City Chiefs, this doesn't happen to them. It barely. You know what the bad year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was? 44-year-old Tom Brady at 8-9. Like, come on, it's
true.
I just love it. Like the whole rebuilding years for the Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl championships. It's
I mean, Andy Reid is Andy Reid, but they had to move on from Andy Reid.
Well, and I understand that.
There was a learning
but you
curve
can still kind of hire Reid. Like, this is my honest opinion. Howie Roseman is not on the level of Brandon Beane, Eric DeCosta, Jason Light, Brett Beach. He's not. He's not. Thinks he is. And look, these guys make mistakes too. Jason likes me.
Everybody makes mistakes.
But I just thought it was
this collection of talent doesn't seem to be meshing well.
This roster is overrated. It's very top heavy. It's tremendous at the top, and that's what matters most as long as guys stay healthy. Yeah. But you're seeing the depth issues in live and living color. Yeah. And that's part of it. You're rolling the dice. You're keeping all these good players at the top of the roster. You're paying them a lot of money. And then it trickles down, and you have some lesser players down the roster.
Yeah, and
Roseman, by and large, that depth is overrated.
Yeah, and look, Roseman's a great GM. I'm not saying, but it's more than him. It's an organizational philosophy. We don't care about linebackers. Okay, well, teams you're losing to, and teams that are going deep in the playoffs, always seem to have good linebackers every single year. You're going out there with
how about keeping good players? Depending, when you get a good player. If I were a GM, this is just the way I'd go about it.
Like TJ Edwards, good player.
Yeah, if I had a good player at any position, I'm trying to keep them, because you see, all right, for the most part, I had agreed with the Eagles' thought process on the running back position. It's devalued. You don't spend a lot of assets, and now they're being proven right that Saquon is a difference maker, and I'm being proven wrong.
The Ravens were right too with Derrick Henry. They said, "Hey,
he's a beast."
200. Did he crack 200 yesterday?
No, he got 199. They took him out.
199. Yeah. So when you get a top level player, they can make a difference. But if it's your middle of the road, it's like, we'll just move on.
Yeah, and they were right about that. That was a good signing for him.
Yeah.
That's where I am, John, on Hassan Reddick. I get it. They didn't want to pay $25 million. I'd rather pay $8 million more for a dude I know that can get to the effing quarterback.
Yeah. Well, do you know it against Big Ben with
I know it more than I knew it about Bryce Huff. I mean,
that's true. That part's true. But I think you're thinking of the 2022.
No, I'm not. I'm not even.
Even the 2023 Hassan Reddick wasn't nearly as good as the 2022 version, and I think that continues to trickle down with the way Vic is using. If he's using Hassan Reddick the same way he's using Bryce Huff, it's going to be much better. But it's not going to be what you want.
What bothers me with Hassan is, and this organization's, and I've agreed with them for a lot of this over the years. They will not pay most guys over 30 or turning 30. But now it's okay, and I get it. Fletcher Cox, great player. They kept him around. Hassan Reddick was a good player. They didn't keep him around, but they keep Darius Slay around. And Darius Slay's still a good player. But
the best player on the Eagles this year, and I say that because he shows up every week and you know he's there, is Brandon Graham, and he's 36. So,
I think he's the best leader on the Eagles, too. I really do.
He's certainly the best player on defense. I know Jalen Carter's got all the talent, but if I wake up one morning and it's like, I hope I get the good Jalen Carter today, What is that? How do you build a team on that? That's why I'm like, Brandon Graham's the best guy. You know what you're getting every single week.
It's true. I mean, look, I think Jalen Carter is still a young player. I still think he's going to be really good.
I get it. He's got
yeah. But no, I agree.
He's going to grow, but
you know what? But you know where I got my where's it? The Field of the Fire last night. Watching Ravens Bills and watching Kyle Hamilton just make a play.
Oh, Hamilton, baby!
I'm like,
what a player! What a player!
Every time with them, it's always something. Let's pass
one of the few I got right. I always got to pump it. I love
you trade. Oh, by the way, Eagles, you traded up. You traded up, and
but you know what? Again, Kyle Hamilton isn't Kyle Hamilton in this scheme. So
no, he's not. But he's still a good player.
Man, this scheme, guys, this scheme blows. We need to move.
But you're playing Kyle Hamilton cover 2. Come on.
I know, but if you're looking at me and you're telling me a player as good as Kyle Hamilton, if he's not going to be good in this scheme, what scheme do you have? You got to accentuate great.
John has been consistent in this since day one.
Take that scheme and chuck it in the garbage. I mean, that's a great player.
John's been calling this
100%.
John's been calling this. He's been talking to me about this for over a year now. The scheme has passed the game by, and he's right.
In the face of Kyle, look, I'm not saying Kyle would be better than what you have playing cover 2 because he's just good. He's just good at everything, but it's a waste. What I'm saying is in this scheme, it's a waste. I think people look at what he does in Baltimore and says, boy, he'll come over here and do that. Again, it's not a vacuum. If they play the same way they play defense here, Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore is not going to be Kyle Hamilton in Philadelphia. That's all I'm trying to say. He's not going to be able to do
my
the
issue
same
is, and I always joke about this with people on the Ravens, they just let you guys get good players all the time, don't they?
Oh, they do.
It doesn't matter. And
I got a text on draft night when the Eagles got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith that essentially said the same thing. How they keep letting you guys get good players from an executive. Well, they might have not. People overrate. Nolan Smith is getting a little bit better, but nothing there.
I give him the Kobe Dean. I just play him and see what he's got at this point.
So would I.
What they got. Jeff, last question, man. We got to let you go because we were coming up on the end of that here with Chris Franklin coming up. But, it's overreaction Monday. Am I overreacting to say that this team is not even close to a Super Bowl contender in the 2024 season?
What's your expectation of a Super Bowl contender before I answer?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not a reporter, right? I'm an Eagles fan. I now do.
Well, that's what
I watched this team march to the Super Bowl in 22. I watched Howie now construct a team that was sold as this is now the best roster we've had. I think this roster could arguably, it doesn't look like it now, but coming into the year, many thought it could be better than 22. The expectation with that is we could be back to the NFC title game. We could be playing, in the Super Bowl. We could maybe get the belt.
By the way, Zander, I agree with you. I think they still could get back to the NFC title game, even with their deficiencies.
Okay,
because
that's where I want to hear.
There aren't many. Look, if you watch around the league, there are a lot of teams I'm not impressed with, but there are teams that are going to get better. And look, I think the 49ers are going to be fine. I know Detroit's good. The Vikings are going to be a problem. I still think Green Bay's good. They beat a good team in week 1. They did. And the schedule does get easier. I don't think Cleveland's good. I know the Giants stink. Carolina's coming up, right?
I tell you, got 2 tough games versus Washington coming up, Jeff.
Well, we'll see. Washington was 3-1 a couple years ago, too. Look,
I know, but that quarterback looks good.
I was talking to a lot of Commanders people last night. They're like, hold your horses, dude. Do you ever see our defense? I'm like, you ever see the Eagles defense? So, yeah, they'll be interesting. And look, they struggled against Washington last year. But, look, I still think they're a playoff team. I still think the Cowboys are a playoff team. I think everything's going to even out as time goes. Look, we're still only a quarter into this thing. Look, Zander, I'll just say this. I'd rather see guys like you overreact to an Eagles loss than the way people overreact to Phillies losses because there is one NFL game. They only play 17 of them. So, I enjoyed this. This is it's when the Phillies are losing game 148 is when I get upset.
Jeff, great stuff, man. Thank you for joining today. Make sure you guys follow Jeff at Jeff Kerr CBS. He does great work for CBS Sports covering.
Yeah, and I
Eagles,
like
NFL.
angry overreaction Monday, Jeff Kerr. I like
it's October, John. We got October coming up, so
October baseball, Red October, yeah,
yeah.
All right, go Phillies.
Yeah, hopefully the
Jeff,
Phillies.
thank you,
Hopefully the Phillies could cure a lot of Philly sports fans over the Eagles bye week, so they can forget about them for a week.
That's a tall order. This is Philly, Jeff. We live in perpetual misery when it comes to sports. That's what my prediction would be. But thanks for joining today, brother. We'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it.
Great stuff from Jeff, man. Love listening to Jeff. He's great on an overreaction Monday, Jeff. John, you're right. He brings the heat. So good stuff there from Jeff Kerr. John, I'm going to run through a couple of our super chats. We got people showing out today, and I want to give them some love before we get to Chris Franklin coming up. Let's go up. I got some of these. I'll ramble through some of these. I wanted you to answer this because John sent this a bit ago. John, right on the money. Everyone wants Jalen to be elite. He's not elite, but he's very good. He has some weaknesses, and they are being exploited. I would agree with that. We got a bunch of comments on Jalen today. And Martine says, Hurts is a competitor and playmaker. He's like Tim Tebow with better arm talent. Fans need to accept that. He will be fine with
a hell of a lot better than
but decision-making has to be better. He said better arm talent.
Yeah, he's a hell of a lot better than Tim Tebow. But, yeah, I mean, there's some limitations. And he is he's a great competitor. He is a playmaker. He is relentless. But yeah, he's much better when it comes to throwing the football than Tim Tebow. Much better.
Jason A-Team checks in, John. He says, this is totally on Nick and coaches.
Of course it is.
To think otherwise is insanity. Decision-making is horrible. Defensive scheme is terrible. Nick has to go.
Okay, so who do you want next? Because everybody was excited about Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Who's coming in next?
It's true.
Who's coming in next?
A-Team, I love it. It's
going to be the exact same thing. Players first. Players first. Players first.
What about also the front office? What about also the people who I think really should be in the bullseye of this conversation is the guys who run the show.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think when I would say the same thing with Harry Roseman. All right, maybe he's not the best GM today in the NFL because they lost a game and people want to make that overreaction when he was before, whatever. It's probably not the best. He's certainly in the top 5. And that doesn't change. He built the roster a specific way. It is very top heavy. When their good players are on the field, they're a very good team. If they have this kind of attrition, they're not going to be very good. The good news is the injuries aren't serious. And at least from an offensive perspective, if they get, and they will, get AJ and Devontae and Lane back after the bye, and they stay healthy the rest of the season, you're going to be fine. You're going to be completely fine on the offensive side of the football. The question is how good. Defensively is a little bit murkier, obviously, because they don't have the same kind of talent. And that's where you're hoping Vic Fangio could elevate things. To date, he has not. To date, it looks a hell of a lot like last year with Vic Fangio, light and Sean Desai, and then he moved to whatever that was with Matt Patricia. But yeah, it doesn't look good. And they have less, if anything, if you think about losing Fletcher Cox, even though he was a descending player, he still had plenty left in the tank. And you're more unproven, even though I think Quinyon Mitchell has a good upside and all that. And I think in theory, Nakobe Dean and Zach Bond can be better than what they had last year. And they have been better at times, but there's these wild swings. CJ Gardner-Johnson, everybody afraid because he might attack you on Twitter. He stinks, and he stunk. He doesn't stink. That's the wrong way of phrasing it. But he stunk early this season. And, because he's boisterous and everybody thinks he's a playmaker. All right, make a play. Do something. Reed's played well. He had the tap. By the way, that
CJ Gardner-Johnson has been awful.
That tells you how hot it is. Reed doesn't even sweat normally, and he had to tap out. Of all the people I would say is not going to tap out, Reed Blankenship would have been number one on that list, and he tapped out. It must have been bad.
Yeah. Let's go through a couple more super chats. Caleb Brandon, shout out to Caleb. I talked to Caleb on the post game show last night. Great stuff from him last night. He said Reddick was top 3 in sacks last 4 years. He's had over 10 sacks for 3 teams and systems. Bad decision. Same as CJ Gardner-Johnson the year before. Same loss of impact. And it shows. And then he commented in again and said, players first. LOL, John, no matter the players, outdated scheme, it won't work. Players first. Poor offenses, play calling first and second down is horrendous. So he's taking some issue with the coaching as well.
Well, the Eagles had the second ranked offense in the NFL with those players before, and they didn't even have AJ for some part of the time with those, but second ranked in the NFL. Granted, small sample size.
John, don't you think though, just real quick, like, don't you think sometimes it's like common sense is going, like, it's first down. That why do they never run the ball with Saquon Barkley on first down? Ever. Like, they never do it. Like, the first 3 drives, Nick's like, oh, well, we got 3 and outs. I'm like, yeah, you didn't even try and run. Set the game up. Get into the game. Let the game evolve. They don't do that at all.
Well,
I know you want to be the passing team, and I get it. I think you're right.
I don't want to be the pass.
Well, I know, but I think in the modern NFL, it gives you the best chance of winning. That doesn't mean you don't. You come out and just start passing everywhere. I mean,
well, I think if you look at it, and we got Chris Franklin. Are we going to break? If you look at it,
let's get to the break real quick.
Yeah, they tried to get the ball to Saquon Barkley, but get to the break.
Yeah, James Carver, we're going to get your $20 super chat out before the end. Don't worry. We'll get all super chats. Thanks, everybody, for checking in this morning. Hit that like button. Chris Franklin, coming up next. Before I do that, real quick, I want to tell you about our great partners at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa, everybody, and use the promo code YouTube150. That's 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and then 125% on your next 2 deposits. So you can deposit less and bet with more. They're the fastest payouts in the industry, and they'll even give you somebody to help you custom with your account and make your bet. So go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Birds 365, back in 3 minutes, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore. Have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365, an overreaction Monday. Birds fall to 2-2 going into their bye week. Joined now by Chris Franklin of NJ.com. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this overreaction Monday? Tough loss yesterday for the Birds.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, my stomach is settled. I don't know if it's I ate something bad or is I still trying to get over watching that game yesterday. That was just bad.
That was a rough one.
Yeah,
24-0. I think it was 255 total yards to 0 at one point. Chris Franklin, that is tough to do from the Eagles. Before you jumped on, we were talking about Saquon touches. Surprisingly, we haven't gotten to it. They tried to get the ball to Saquon early. First of all, the first mistake was winning the coin toss and deferring. Jody tapped it, Jody. But anyway, so they're down 7-0. The first play of the game was a pass. Now, I don't know who it was designed to go to, but that was the pass that everybody thought Saquon was open and Jalen Hurts had the terrible throw. Now, since I've seen the all 22, it really wasn't open. It was late, so that seemed like a TV thing. Really wasn't that open. Either way, they tried to get him the football on the first play. Second play was a run to Saquon. Third was a pass to Goddard on 3rd and 10, I believe. So you can't run it there. And you're down 7-0, as I said. So they're 3 and out. Then they're down 14-0 because Tampa goes down and scores. First play is a pass to Goddard. All right. Maybe it should have been a run to Saquon. Second play is a run to Saquon. Nothing. 3rd and 7. Hurts sack. Obviously, 3rd and 7, you're not going to run it. Then you're down 21-0. When you get it back again, first pass it's a pass. Then it's a pass to Saquon. Then it's 3rd and 10, another incomplete pass. I mean, you're down. They literally could not sustain a drive, and they tried to get him the football, and they were down 21-0. And at that point, well, what the hell can you do? At that point, you got to try to get back in the game.
Yeah, one thing I thought is possible too. It's the same problems that they had last year that they're starting to creep up again, and at least that game. They always like to throw. It was either predictable when they used to run the inside zone, or they like to throw the ball. They love to throw the ball on first down.
Yeah,
and I get that, but you can't if you in a game like that where you know it's hot, your defense is getting gassed. You needed to give them a break. So even if it was an off tackle run for like 3 yards, but you run behind Dickerson and Mailata or what have you, so you stay away from Vita Vea, because I would say you don't want to run right into Vita Vea because good luck. Like, you need a bulldozer, you need a boulder to try to push them out there. You really ran out off tackle or try to do something else like that. Given Saquon's ability to break tackles, why not? And just try to sustain it that way. Like, just keep the runner there, keep your defense at least fresher earlier on in that game.
Yeah, it was
maybe you have a shot.
Kelly vibe. Very Chip Kelly vibe without the tempo. And ironically, tempo is the only thing that helped them get them going. But yeah, they were 3 and out. But that's the thing about, look, you look at it and say, all right, 10 for 84. Why didn't you give him the football 30 times? And hey, if it started like a normal game, maybe he would have gotten it 30 times and they weren't down 21-0. But, you know, the 59-yard run, that's what Saquon is. So it's like 1 yard, 2 yards, 1 yard, 2 yards, bang, 59. Like, I can't. They tried to get him the football. They couldn't get a first down to sustain it. And then he would have run it again and hopefully get going. But they were so inept with everything early, including the runs to Saquon Barkley. You're already down 21-0. At that point, it becomes a different game and he becomes less relevant. And then you're screwed because you don't have any receivers. Start better.
I'd arguably say like yesterday when you were heading to the game with all those receivers you had, I'd argue including tight ends, I'd argue he's your second best receiver on there. So why not try to scheme him a little bit? If you're going to use the passing game as much as you did, why not use him in the slot? Why not try to use that as much as this team loves to use bubble screens and blitzing? Why not try to find a way to get that to use him early on at least anyway? Because they're pretty much like as much as we've heard many times, they're extended handoff. They're extended handoff. Well, I'm not getting to the extended handoff from the guy who's your running back who can catch the ball and try to run the outside.
But that's I hate that I'm defending the Eagles, but I have to defend the Eagles. So there's 9 plays, right? And those first 3 drives, and 4 were to Saquon. I mean, I
you were limited what you had because we all saw what happened with the Dotson trade. I think some of that's utilization, but we also you're getting at him right now.
Yeah,
you're looking at what you're getting right now, Paris Campbell.
It should have been 9 out of 9. Maybe it should have been 9 out of 9. But I'm saying,
coming up too,
all I'm trying to say is that I think it wasn't as bad as people think. And they tried to get him the ball, and then it was 24-0. On the 4th drive, by the way, then when they were down 24-0, he touched it a bunch because they actually got a first down. I think he had 4 or 5 touches. So they tried, but nothing was working, including that. And once you're down 24-0, I mean, at that point, let's be honest, it's extended garbage time. And there was one little sliver of hope, and that came after Saquon's 59-yard run, which set up the touchdown early in the 3rd quarter, Chris. And that made it a 24-14 game. And you said, all right, man, if they get a 3 and out here, then all of a sudden everything shifts to Tampa Bay. They're like, oh, we're going to blow this big lead. Maybe you can get back in the game. And that defense can't get off the field. I mean, they can't get off the field. Big Fangio, the god of defense. Where is the defense, Chris Franklin?
I'm still trying to find. Maybe they left it back in New Orleans. I don't know. That's just the way that they
defense is supposed to travel.
He was finding somebody travel, but teaching tackling too. That made a traveling tackle coach. My goodness, like that's as much as we hear. As much as we've seen, I mean, you've seen this down there, right? We see all the tackling circuits, we see all this stuff there. Maybe this is where it's got to a point now where you start to reevaluate. Do you need to change the personnel that you have in there in 1st and 2nd down because these guys can't do it? And you look at the way that that first wave, at first you saw a couple guys over pursuing gaps. You're like, oh great, I see that, and then you can't even wrap up in it as well. It starts with personnel a little bit. The guys you brought in because this team can't tackle. It's an up down. It's got to the point now. I feel like this defense, you have to win a shootout. You need a shootout, and when you lose your top 2 wide receivers and you don't have the offensive firepower you normally have, it's almost like Doc Rivers said. You got to schedule a loss because the offense can't keep up, and the defense, can't stop anybody. They had that one thing. I wonder when we look back at the rest of the season when it's all over. That New Orleans game was like just full score, where you're like, okay. This guy, they can really do something, but you can't get pressure from the offensive line, from the defensive line. So it exposes all your secondary, and now they're getting picked apart, and they're getting really frustrated back and forth. It's just you just wait for it to, like a thing of dominoes, to just keep falling down that way. And it's just.
I like this.
36-year-old BJ, Chris, is the best defensive lineman on this team because he shows up every week. You don't have to wake up one morning and say, oh, which version of Jalen Carter am I going to get today? BG is going to show up. He's the best guy on the defensive line right now through 4 weeks. 36 years old.
The only person I probably excuse for their performance is Jalen Carter because the Buccaneers like, you know what? We're not getting beat by this. Like, so he got double teamed. They made sure to pay extra attention to him. This is where you start to look at Jordan Davis.
He knew it was coming too. He knew it was coming.
This is where you start to look at Jordan Davis one-on-one. You're the strong guy. You're the athletic guy.
Right, you're supposed to beat everybody one-on-one.
Yeah, you're supposed to be drawing the double teams as well too. That's the thing. You're supposed to be making these teams in the middle decide which one to block is helpful. The other ones should be getting free, and it's not happening. And the other one's like, sorry. This one, I'm looking at this one, it's like a little frustrated. It's a lot of times this defense, you're starting to wonder this. They need to. I'm at the point where like, you know what, the scheme is just done.
It's done. I bet finally. God, I
It's
wake up. Finally, everybody's caught up to me. This scheme
because
is passe.
Because everybody just copying at first beginning, everybody just basically copy and pasted what Vanjie was doing and wasn't that way. And you wanted to see some changes over time. Like you think the guy who invented it, he knows some changes that he can make to the scheme because everybody and their mom's doing it. Everybody sees it now for so long. Let's see the changes.
Yeah.
Well, you not only got to see the changes, like you've seen the same things happen in the other stops, but now the one thing that you really banked on where you're sitting in the run thing, it's the system is too reliant on safeties trying to help and tackle. And then when you have your safeties having issues coming up and making tackles and giving them up extra yards, this is a recipe for disaster right now. I know it's only week 4. And I was saying this it's week 4. Who knows? Maybe they look into themselves, the old retrospective. We're looking into ourselves. We'll see if we come back better.
Yeah, the bye week, self-scout, early self-scout. Hopefully it comes up with something. You know, it's interesting. You mentioned New Orleans, Chris. That's like a styles make bites things. Because of the way New Orleans plays, I think everybody's scared that they look at the numbers, but they didn't look at the way the Saints play. 12 personnel, play action, max protection. And that enabled the Eagles to play their 5 and 6-man fronts, even the 6-man front. And they're good when they can do that. But when they're in that 4-man front and nickel, they're brutal. Brutal.
This is what you get when you don't have, besides Brandon Graham, and you saw Josh Sweat pop up. When you don't have a consistent pass rush, this is where you start to get picked apart. At least with the 5, you can get a guy like Milton Williams. You can get a little bit better. You get 1-on-1, and you hopefully get one of these guys breaks through. So half the time, most of the time, we see it comes from the interior, or you see Vaughn roll up, and then you have something there. Now you're relying on Huff, who I thought he should have had. I thought he was going to get a sack. He came real close to the third. Like, oh, he's probably going to do this around, and he got pushed in. It's like, oh, great, here we go. It's got to the point where you look at it like, well, you know, the quarterback's going to have 4 or 5 seconds to throw now, unless you blitz. And then, you know, if you blitz, you got all that space back there. You can't do that with a lot of veteran quarterbacks. You're just going bam, 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 pick you apart. So there's not much out there in terms of, well, there's one big name out there, but you're going to trade, and you're basically admitting you're right or wrong by trading them to the Jets. That's not right. So it's not much you can really do on you're pretty much stuck with this. Let's maybe get Jalen Hunt some more snaps and just say, you know what, at this point, let's just see what he can do.
Yeah.
Boy, at that point. I don't think Jalix is ready for the physicality of NFL offensive tackles.
No.
Could it be worse? Maybe not. I saw an interesting note from Doug Farrar, and I don't know where he got the stat, but I'm going to throw it out there because Doug's good, and I'm sure it's correct. The Eagles have played less press coverage than any other NFL team. 88% of the time, they're not in press, which is by far number 1 in the NFL. And Doug's assessment of that was, I don't know how you play modern defense like that. I kind of agree with them. What? I mean, we know Quignon played a lot of off coverage at Toledo, was very good at it, eyes on the quarterback, but he's athletic enough to handle press. You're supposed to develop these players. Slay's been one of the best press corners in the NFL for years. They never play press. What are we doing here, Chris?
Old school mentality and defense coordinator with staying away from the press, because that off coverage is a staple of the scheme. Because he wants to give everybody, those corners, the ability to stay off, look back into seeing what's developed in front of them and moving that way. And yeah, the press thing, you need to disrupt the timing. Because if you're not, God knows, I hate to go back to this, if your pass rush is not getting there, you need to disrupt the timing, at least so the quarterback has to think a little bit more. Maybe one of those guys break through. And this is one of the adjustments. Maybe this is what happens when they start doing that self-scout and they're saying, hey, you know what? When each coordinator looks at each other and say, hey, this is what I would do to your defense, what I do, this is what's working. that should be one of the first changes they make. I think we've seen the way that Quinyon Mitchell, he has the ability to recover. If he gets beat at the line, he's shown the
Yeah, he's
makeup speed to
great
get beat.
recovery speed. He really does.
And if you have these safeties deep, they should be able to be able to recover and help him out. So that's an easy, quick switch to make, and you don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on there. That and also maybe I think you had to the point where you had to have the discussion now. Where's Cooper DeJean if he's supposed to be this guy that's supposed to be really good? I know he had to ramp up back at this point, but now,
yeah, he should be out there.
yeah,
by this
so
point.
It's
and CJ, at the risk of angering CJ and getting blocked, he has not played well. CJ Gardner-Johnson. The secondary looks like
CJ Gardner-Johnson to this point is all bark and no bite. Just reality. He barks a lot and he doesn't do anything on the field. He gets beat every game. We're four games deep. He's gotten beat every game.
That was a good formation. I'll say this: the way that Tampa Bay singled him up on that outside and that bunch, it's like they knew what was going on. I don't think it's all
the flag route by Evans. I mean,
yes.
And CJ's looking for the flag, dude. That ain't pushing off. He just beat you clean.
That was really good in terms of that.
But that's a great player. I mean,
yeah, that's a tremendous. I almost don't even want to pick on CJ for that because Mike Evans is tough.
Yeah, that's a bad matchup. But that's that's a good job by
Liam
Cohen. Yeah,
it's got to a point where I'm looking at: do you switch the responsibilities of him and Reed, where Reed's more of the free, CJ's more in a box? Do you try to switch that up in order to get him to start to flow a little bit better, so he's not more responsible in some of those run fits? It's got to the point that's another tweak you got to start thinking about as well too.
Yeah,
having him go down there so that way he's not going in there. But it's rough. Like I still think you still need him on his team because
we go all the way back to year one of Nick Sirianni. Remember, like they were struggling defensively and everybody was complaining about Gannon and the coverage and the off coverage, and Nick had to stay tighten it up. Here we are again, year 4. They played the same damn scheme, no tight coverage. You got to tighten it up. How about changing the scheme? Yeah. How about going off? Now it's it's an indictable offense in the NFL to criticize Vic Fangio, and I love the guy, but yeah, I'd like to see a scheme change. So Jeffrey Lurie, when you do move on, you gotta get a new defensive coordinator as well.
5 straight though, man. 5 straight coordinators with this scheme. Are they gonna do it? It's almost like a pipe dream to even believe.
No, they I don't even want to count. I don't know what Matt Patricia was running. To tell you the truth.
that was a Patricia offense.
Yeah, and that was just he's like, okay, let's blitz here. This is not working this way too. I want to blitz. Like what was it like? Oh
yeah.
But
he wasn't running that scheme. That was a little, but obviously Sean Desai was. So
Bill's gonna like what I'm doing here. Let's do this. Oh wait, it didn't happen. Bill, please like me still.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of it. But it's the same thing offensively. In a lot of ways, I'm just tired of watching modern football because it's ugly and not aesthetic. And I can't stand bubble screens. I can't, it's like, boy, I'd like to go back to the days of West Coast offense and variable defense and trying to do some different things. But we are where we are. And I don't know why it went down that tangent. Offensively, get a little positive. It's going to get better after the bye. I mean, to me, the style points were ugly. But to me, you mentioned Doc Rivers. That's a great quote, the scheduled loss. This was a scheduled loss when you don't have AJ, Devontae, and Lane. I mean, that the depth on this team is lacking. And maybe that should make some sense because they're so top heavy. They got big stars and they're paying big money. Shouldn't we expect that to a certain degree?
Yeah, I think especially just looking the way, I think if you had AJ, even if you even had Devontae on that field at that point, it changes because there has to be a lot more. They can't keep all those guys in your line of scrimmage. I don't think they have to blitz a lot more because you have to worry about, Jalen Hurts is going to go to Devontae Smith, and Smith could get that routes and gets all that way. It may get some separation as well, too, as opposed to some of the other guys that were on the field there. And so I think when everything comes back, I'm not as concerned about the offense because there's just, I think it's more of a personnel thing right now. There are some things I want to see a little bit change a little bit better. Yeah. Do I want to see Dallas Goedert utilized more when both of those guys come back? Yeah. I think it just makes you tougher to defend when everybody knows you can't go toward the outside. And I think it also makes you you got good things going with Saquon as well too. So I'm not worried about the offense as much as it is. It's just a lot of pressure that's going to be placed on them, knowing that. Well, I am worried about turnovers with Jalen Hurts. So
that's where I was going.
Turnovers with Jalen Hurts, it really does mess with you in terms of that as well too. But that's a lot of pressure you're putting on one side of the ball. Say, hey, you know what? You got to carry this whole entire thing, because if not, there's a loss. You're at the point now you need them to put 27 up a game. If not,
yeah, and evidently it's not Jalen Hurts that needs to do the carrying. It's AJ Brown, because when he goes out, it's like a new football team that we watch. That's where I want to go next. You already brought him up, is Jalen Hurts. We have a poll going in the chat right now, over 400 votes, and it's completely split perfectly even at 50-50 on in or out on Jalen Hurts. The fan base is getting fired up. Chris,
one loss without
I've never
AJ,
seen that. I'm telling you, I've been reading these comments for 4 years. I've never seen this much anger around the quarterback. They think they were sold the bill of good. It's, you're paying $50 million for a mediocre guy. Where are you on Jalen Hurts, 2-2 going into the bye week? Are you ready to sound the alarms? Can we win with him? Can we ever see the 22 guy again? Where are you, Chris, with Jalen Hurts?
Well, I think I'm gonna piss off no matter what. I'm gonna piss off half the people watching. But either way, I'm still
like politics, man. Yeah, it's the same thing.
But either way, if it was 50%, 60%, I'm still in on them. I think some of the stuff, and I say you look back to last year, and it's still going on. I understand where everybody's getting for that. I really do. I still look at the way there's two schools of thought I'm looking at here. A, I think it's correctable. I think it's one of those things I think he's starting to get in his head a little bit more. B, I don't know, you start finding the guy, I don't know what have you, but you need it sounds simple, but it seems like he doesn't do it because I think it's so ingrained in his ways of doing it. Just keep two hands around the ball when you're rolling around the outside. I know if they feel awkward first, just keep two hands around the ball.
Yeah.
I was
surprised. I was surprised, Chris. Nick kind of took that one off Jalen Hurts, and a bunch of other people did as well. And I'm like, what? Because Lavonte David gets pushed behind you, he's out of the play. I mean, you got to be aware that's a borderline Hall of Fame player,
especially a guy of that caliber.
He's coming back. I'm surprised how many people looked at that one, and Nick specifically said that's not on Jalen. I'm like, what do you mean? We used to see that all the time with Carson Wentz, trying to extend the play, forget the guy went past him. He'd come back, he'd knock it out from behind. I mean, yeah, he's got to be better taking care of the football. That said, yeah, I think you have this overreaching, for many years, anytime I criticized Jalen Hurts, I'd get killed. And now it's everybody wants to pull the plug on him for one game where he doesn't have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith.
John, now you're getting killed for telling us it's all good.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's all good. I'm saying he's a very good player.
Yeah.
But there are some flaws. And the biggest flaws are, in my estimation, and we'll hear Chris's, are still not a great anticipatory throw. He's not going to throw guys open. He's not great with timing routes. That kind of stuff's got to get a little bit better. And I'm a little disappointed that it hasn't gotten better a little quicker. Where are you with that?
Yeah, I think he's got so much stuff as well too. And then also with those timing routes, anticipatory things, yeah, it's weird because sometimes you see, especially yesterday, I think it really came to a head yesterday. It was really noticeable when you didn't have those guys, when your top guys there. So that was a game you needed him to throw some of those guys open. You needed him to get that window there. It didn't happen. A lot of stuff experienced. I still think it's at this point now. I think he's a year behind where he should be in his development in terms of that one too. Now you can go and say, okay, that's what all the different offensive coordinators going through, like different things. But whatever happens, whoever this development plan that he was on, the trajectory he's on, he's a year behind, and they need to find a way to speed it up. I'm at the point now, like, I don't know what you can do to speed it up. I look at the way that they're supposed to be in terms of like the pocket presence has gotten better. I mean, well, not the pocket presence, but the in throw from the pocket's gotten better. Presence has to be there. I don't know if you
the
use the thing
presence. I don't. 6 sacks. I mean, you also have to understand the situation as a quarterback. I remember talking about that with Frank Reich. I mentioned it way back. As a former quarterback, Frank was like, sometimes you gotta understand the situation. Sometimes the offensive line's having a bad day. Sometimes whatever. And you got to speed it up, and you got to say, all right, we're not here with pass protection. I got to seize it and speed it up and get rid of the football. That might be dumping it off, might be whatever. I think he needs to improve with that as well. And yeah, but he's still a very good player. That's where I push back. The people saying he's still a very good player. That's typically is very difficult to deal with, especially when AJ and Devontae are out there. Very difficult to deal with.
You need that bridge as well too. And then also you start to look at, okay, you say you want to move on, like for the 50% say, hey,
who are you moving on?
Oh, we ain't moving on. I told somebody that last night. They're like, I'm ready to move on from Hurts. I'm like, brother, I appreciate it, but we're going to wake up next year. He's going to be your quarterback. Nick might be gone. Howie could be. Anybody could be gone. The one thing that will remain is Jalen Hurts at quarterback.
You want to see Kenny Pickett?
That's the one name I was going to say. Like, you want to put him in there? Go, okay, yeah.
Well, they probably want to put Tanner McKee in there because they all think, you don't trust me. You don't want that.
Yeah, I'd rather see a QB2 competition between I saw that was just a competition in name, and then you start to worry about like there's nothing. Yeah, there's not that many as we've seen right now. There's not that many guaranteed people that are going to be good quarterbacks. Look at the draft. Look at this year's draft. All the people say, hey, you know what? Caleb Williams is going to be the best guy out there.
Yeah.
I thought Jaden Daniels was going to be the best guy out there.
I'm officially spiking the football on that one. He is the best by far.
Same here.
So much better than Caleb Williams. So much better.
Never touch USC quarterbacks at all. You can't trust them.
No, can't say that. You know why? Sam Darnold.
Sanchez. You go to John David Booty. You go down the list.
But here's the thing about that, Chris. It was the same thing with Ohio State before CJ Stroud.
Yeah,
Ohio State quarterbacks never pan out.
It just took Sam Darnold. I think Sam Darnold. I said it. I think he can play. Small sample size, but I think he can play. I think he figured it out.
Well, he certainly's got some talent, Sam Darnold, for sure.
Yeah, USC quarterback.
We're living in a bizarre world. Sam Darnold's arguably the best quarterback in the world. The Vikings are throwing. This season's drunk already.
The Commanders are leading the NFC.
All you got to do is bet ex-Jets quarterbacks on the money line, and you'll be doing well for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Gino and Sam Darnold. Just bet them on the money line.
Chris, thanks for joining today, man. Last thought here on your way out. Overreaction Monday. Am I overreacting to say that this team is not a Super Bowl contender?
At the moment, no. I think the roster. If you look at the names and players in the roster, yeah, it is. At the moment, the way they're playing right now, no. You're looking at a playoff.
But there's
team.
room to grow. There's room to grow.
I think and I wonder, does he bring out the flower speech again? I'm not doing that and saying in jest, but no, I'm not saying in jest. I'm saying, like, do you find a way to tell something or something similar to that, saying,
right,
you have the pieces there. Do you bring up something similar to that? Like, and I know the flower speech gets joked on, but I'm serious in terms of the message that was behind it. There's a lot still there.
The flower thing worked.
It worked, because there was a lot of things.
Players loved it.
The flower message has returned. Chris Franklin, I was not expecting to go there on an overreaction Monday, but we are back to the flowers.
It works. It's true. And I really think it's true. You have a lot of good roots there, position at most of those positions. It's a matter of coaching and just making sure they get these guys in better spots. And that's a lot.
What do you want? A nice sunflower or a hydrangea? What do you want? What does Chris Franklin want? What do you want blooming?
A productive apple tree.
All right. Well, nice.
I like that.
All right.
Because you may have some things that are rotten
That
on
thing's
that
gonna
tree.
bloom in 4 years. Chris, are you crazy?
Well, I was going to say you may have some things that are rotten on that tree
Yeah.
and fall it off, but when you get everything, you find it successful, you get the right pesticides. You
Well,
get the
we're
right
going
pesticides, all that stuff.
pesticides
That for it,
now.
you get everything safe.
Yeah.
It works out. You have a.
I like it. I got a cherry
yeah.
tree, by the way.
Yeah,
Cherries
I like
never
it.
grow on it, but they're supposed to. It's pretty young.
My uncle has a
Still
cherry
looking
tree
like
that
it.
actually works, John. The first one I've
Yeah.
ever seen that actually makes cherries.
Yeah. Well, I got little buds of cherries this year and then nothing.
Oh,
I'm
maybe
like,
you'll get a couple in the years coming. Johnny Mac.
I was all excited. I'm like, I'm
cherry
finally going to
farmer.
see a cherry.
Yeah. Johnny Mac is officially adding cherry farmer to the resume. Chris, thanks for joining the show, man. Appreciate your great takes today. Great analogy with the apple tree. I'll be using that one on the show. I'll give you credit for it. Thanks for joining today, man. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother?
All right. Thanks. Y'all have a good one now. Thanks.
Yeah,
See you.
see you, man. Great stuff from Chris Franklin. Appreciate him joining the show today. John, just a couple of minutes left here on the show, and I'm going to get to a couple super chats before we do it, but I'm going to stay on, everybody, by the way, for overtime. So I'll let Johnny Mac drop off here at the top of the hour. I'm going to take some comments. I don't want to miss any of our super chats. So thank you guys for all the great support this morning, and I'll stay on with you guys and chop it up for a little bit. Johnny Mac, just your final thoughts, though, man. I mean, it's overreaction Monday. I just asked Jeff and Chris the same question. Am I overreacting that this team is not a Super Bowl contender?
Well, I think there's two questions. I think right now they're not, but I think they can be. And
you still think they can be, right? You don't think the problems
they're like right now the best teams in the NFC are two teams we didn't expect to be the best teams in the NFC. So is anybody really going to sit there and say, "Oh, Minnesota's going to the Super Bowl"? I can't go that route yet. They're playing well. I think they're a good team. We'll see if it holds up. I'm starting to believe more and more in Sam Darnold, but I don't think you look at that team and say, "Oh, well, the Eagles can't beat them in January if need be, if everybody's healthy." And the same thing with Seattle and Geno Smith. Now, San Francisco played a bad team. They're back on the right track. You're going to get to see Seattle versus Detroit tonight if you want to. Two potential. There's no great team where you say, so can the Eagles be in the mix? Sure. And again, you don't have to be 10-1. You can be 6-4 and get hot and start playing your best football later in the season. So right now they're not a Super Bowl contender, but can they grow into one? Yes. They still have the best skill position talent in the NFL when everybody's healthy. That didn't change. Defensively, you hope they get a little bit better. I don't think the ceiling is anymore. But guess what? I thought the ceiling before the season was mid-range. I thought Vic had to get them from 25, 26, whatever they were, to 15, 16. Can they get there? Yeah, they could still get there. If they start tackling, that might take care of half the issues.
Yeah, really.
But, especially the style of the play, they want to keep people in front of them. Well, if you want to keep people in front of you, you got to tackle when they catch the football. So that would cure a lot of issues. Pass rush probably not going to be there to the level that people want it, but you can persevere and be all I'm looking for is mid-range, middle of the road. Can they do that? Sure. But yeah, right now, no. Can they grow into it? Yeah. As long as AJ and Devontae and Lane are healthy, yeah, they could be a very good team.
Good stuff today from John McMullen. John, here's and I have one super chat to give you before you get out the door. I'm going to get to every super chat, so thank you all in the chat. This is where Eagles fans' heads are on this Monday, Johnny Mac. Angel Martinez checks in. He says, "Who gives a damn about this football team?"
Mm-hmm.
J Mac, what do you think of the Mr. McMahon doc?
I watched like 2 episodes. I haven't gotten through the whole thing. It's tough for me. Worst time of year for them to release it.
Yeah. Busy time.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of time. I'll watch it eventually. The first 2 episodes, I mean, I'm a weirdo, so I knew all these stories. Nothing new to me. Hopefully as it gets later. He's a whack job, though. He is an utter whack job. But Vince McMahon, for those who don't know.
Built a big ass business. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Well, great businessman, obviously, but yeah, he's a weirdo, as most rich people
I don't know
are.
much about him. All I know is that the WWE fan base is pretty incredible. I'm not a huge WWE fan. I mean, I'd like listening to you and Jody chop it up a little bit. I mean, I'm some of it interests me, but I don't watch WWE. But
such an interesting, and it's funny because it's so interesting, the industry. Like, I'm more interested in the behind the scenes and the business stuff than the actual product, because
is the NFL becoming more WWE like to you, John?
No, they're not nearly as interesting behind the scenes. That is an interesting industry. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
we should
stuff.
do
We
should do a JAKIB podcast.
Yeah, we should do that. That would be a good idea. We got a bunch of wrestling fans in the chat. You can educate me on more of the WWE. I know you've been a fan for a long time. So, John, great show today, man. Thanks for doing it. Thanks for tempering some of our overreactions on this Monday. I'm not feeling good, Johnny Mac, about this football team, but I thought you brought some great points today. Thanks for doing it, man. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning.
All right, cheer up. AJ will be back. Devontae will be back. Lane will be back. It will get better. It will get better.
John,
one thing before I leave, because I did see one comment about the schemes being outdated. I'm the first one who said the scheme was outdated defensively, but again, a bunch of you guys thought the problems were the coordinators last year. Now you got different coordinators. Now, if you get different you're always going to have the same issue. At one point does that people wake up to that? It's always the coordinators. It's always the coach. It's always the coordinators. It's always the coach. Maybe it's not.
I think it's the damn front office.
Maybe it is. Maybe shift it a little bit, but it's the players, and you'll see it, because when the good players are out there, magically the Eagles are good, and then we can nitpick about what's good on a particular game day, what's bad, but when the good players are out there, they're pretty good, and when they're not good. It's not magic. It's not, common sense.
Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Coming soon, a WWE podcast from JAKIB Sports. Johnny Mac, good stuff, man. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. All right, brother? Make sure everybody tunes in tomorrow, 8 to 10. We'll do that with John. John, thanks for joining, brother. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right. See you. There's Johnny Mac joining. Great stuff from John this Monday. Like I said, I'm going to stick around with everybody. I'm going to do some of the super chats, get through all of them. John obviously has a bunch of other work to get done today, so I'm going to let him roll out. Look at the chat, everybody, the poll. If you haven't voted, please go vote on the poll. I'm watching that. I liked it. I always go to you guys because you guys are my gauge on the fan base of where this fan base is. I talked to John McMullen and Dan Cilio all day. Neither of them are the fans of the team. I need the gauge from you guys. It's 50-50 right now on Jalen Hurts. That's where we are on our starting quarterback. I think that's a pretty incredible thing that it's even gotten that low. And, I echo a lot of the worries. I really do. And I understand the people who are still in and, who want to see it through. I think part of the reason many are still in is because they know there's no out. You're not going out. James, before you go, man, let me hit your super chats. I do want to bring both of them up. James, I'll start with your first one. Sorry I didn't get to him, James, with John. We got all messed up with the guest today. We went long and then we missed a break. So sorry about that, James. You I appreciate your support very much. I'm going to get both your supers right now. James Carver checks in, and all super chats will be read right now. So thanks, everybody. This 30-year-old heuristic is ridiculous. Increasingly older players will be best on D because the coaching in the NFLPA has made tackling the only way to teach tackling film. I think he meant the only way to teach tackling, and Reddick would not be on his stomach like Huff the Turtle. It's a good point, James. Like, you're starting to see the older defensive players dominate the league continuously. Like, I think Chris Jones, I don't know if he's not 38, but he's 29 or 30. He is just a dominant force. I mentioned today on the show, Brandon Graham is the best defensive lineman on the team because he shows up every week, right? He's 36. I mean, it's unbelievable. James, great point though, man. I mean, it really seems like the older dudes are now starting to be more valuable. Is the 30-year-old word in the NFL going to start to lose some of its meaning? You're going to watch, Now, Hassan's not playing, so we don't really know how productive he is right now. But, I think that was a drastic miss from Howie Roseman to let him walk for an extra $7 million. I mean, we're still playing with $20 million of cap space. Howie figures out everybody else's contract. You're telling me you couldn't give an extra $7 million, to Hassan Reddick for $25 million? I think he would have taken a $25 million deal. So, I don't know. We're missing pass rush in a big way. So, James, good comment there, brother. Let me get to your next super chat as well. James, did you mean Arthur Blank? I'm not sure if you're still in here. He says it was Arthur Blank and the Falcons, or you might have meant Todd Bowles and the Bucs. Maybe. I'm not sure, James. You got to let me know in the chat. Run the damn ball. Regardless of score, time of possession's a friend to defenses and O-line, especially when it's not the starters on O-line. How do you eat an elephant? Remember, Saquon's not a receiver. It seems like you're talking about the Bucs there, because you're missing your receivers and you go into a game versus Todd Bowles, who has Jalen Hurts' number, and you won't run the ball down their throat. Like, that's why I like Caleb in the chat, who's giving us some great super chats. And he's like, dude, run the freaking ball on first down. Everyone's like, oh, you get behind 2 scores. And Caleb brought up a good point last night. He's like, there's a whole football game left. We got within, 2 scores in the second half, and we didn't run the damn ball, set it up with Saquon. But, they come out and they throw the damn ball on the first down every single time. And they just get behind the sticks. And I thought it was a brutal game plan with those 2 guys. James just clarified. So let me bring that back up. It was what and how Arthur. Okay, so you were referencing them as how they lost. Okay, got it. So I read it a little bit wrong, but anyway, appreciate it. So I get you. I see what you're saying now. Run the damn ball. They didn't run the ball either, and that's what cost them. You're right, though, James. It's a good point, man. They do not use Saquon like they should. And coming into that game plan, it was pretty obvious what the plan should have been, and they didn't go to that. So brutal game yesterday, everybody. Look, as an Eagle fan, I know it's Overreaction Monday. We have a long week now because we're on the bye week, so there's no Eagle game next week. So we're going to be doing shows. There's a lot to talk about here. I think things are going to be dissected to a new level this week. And look, it doesn't look good. I mean, look, I'm going to try and be optimistic with you guys, but it doesn't look good. I think even John is over optimistic in terms of some of these problems can be fixed. You're now seeing the same problems from last year that caused us to collapse bleed into this year. Can they be fixed? I do not know. We'll see. Maurice, thank you for becoming a member, man. Couple new members today. If you guys want to become a member and support the channel, Brian Garner became a member and Maurice became a member. Thank you both for your support. The link is right below in the description. It's really just support of the channel. So if you enjoy the content here every day, your memberships really help keep us on the air, obviously, and pay the bills. So thank you guys so much for the support. If you want to become a member, the link is below in the description. Thank you, Maurice. I already hit Angel Martinez. Let's go to Brian, who says his standard is not the standard. He's not trusting his preparation. He's not keeping the main thing. Mr. Breed of One, Breed of Buns. I think Brian wanted me to make a Breed of Buns t-shirt after I teased our first t-shirt design on JAKIB Sports last night. By the way, JAKIB merch coming for everybody that's interested in that, to all of our members and everybody. So great stuff coming on the merch. Brian, I can't disagree with you, though. I mean, he's not playing up to the standard that he seems to set every week. I think that's a fair point. Caleb checks in. John, you just casually said maybe you should have run it. That's how you stay ahead of the sticks. In the 2 games against Tampa, we did the same thing. We must run on first down. Yeah, Caleb, I'm completely on board with what you're saying with this. How do you not come, like, when you, it's one thing to not do it when, AJ and Devontae are out there. Okay, maybe you could justify, go to them. You come into this game without those 2 guys versus Todd Bowles, and you don't run the ball on first down? It's like, where is the common sense? If everybody can see it, if I can see it as a fan, if you guys can see it in the chat, if John and Dan can see it, like, don't the coaches see it? I don't understand it, Caleb. You make a great point, man, and it was great talking with you last night on the post-game show. Jason 18, major shout-out to you, brother. Our 3rd JAKIB Legend member. He upgrades his membership to a JAKIB Legend, which is our highest form of membership, basically just for those who support the heck out of us. Jason, I got something for you, brother. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to send you a little JAKIB care package. So thank you for your support, man. You have been a big supporter for a long time. So thank you so much for doing that and upgrading your membership to a JAKIB Legend member. Thank you, brother. All super chats, guys, I'm going to get to. So just give me a second. It might take me a bit to get through them. We have a lot of them. 2-0 Blaze checks in. 10 carries is not trying to get him the ball. We threw 2 checkdowns to Saquon. Pathetic AF. You're right, Suo. And that's what we just talked about. Just the game plan for this game was beside me. I didn't understand it from a common sense standpoint, and I don't think anybody did. And it was a brutal game plan, and they really set the team up to fail. Kadeem Jackson checks in. Kadeem, thank you, brother. Thank you for being here. Seems like all the top QBs are struggling so far. It's true. Not the top ones. I mean, Josh Allen's having a good year. He struggled last night, so maybe you're right. I mean, maybe everybody's, struggling a little bit right now, but Jalen's hasn't been good, man. Jalen, I don't even think, geez, you guys might rip me for this. Has Jalen been a top 20 quarterback this year? That might sound crazy, but if you look at some of these quarterbacks who are playing right now in the NFL, I mean, let's just run through. Is Jalen Hurts a top 20 quarterback right now in the league? Everybody in the chat, answer top 20. I'm not talking about top 10 or top 5, top 5, top 20. That's 20 guys. There's 32 teams. There's only 32 starters. Let's look. And I'm not doing no PFF grades. I'm doing none of that shit. I'm doing Josh Allen's been better. I'm just going through right now. I'm going to go through the AFC teams, then I'll go through the NFC. Josh Allen's been better. Aaron Rodgers has been better. Dolphins are a wash. Patriots, no. Mahomes, obviously better. Herbert, better. Broncos, shit, is Bo Nix playing better than Hurts? I won't give him that. Raiders, no. Minshew. Steelers, no. Ravens, yes, with Lamar Jackson. Browns, Deshaun Watson. He's been pretty brutal. Bengals, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow hasn't even been good. So maybe he is top 20 right now because I'm already looking at the AFC. I just rattled off 6 or 7 teams that haven't been better. CJ Stroud, yes. Richardson and Indianapolis, no. Titans, no. Jaguars, no. So it looks like he's definitely still top 20. And maybe I overreacted a little bit there. But go to the NFC. Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels has been much better than Jalen Hurts so far this year. Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, I think he's been better. Jalen's been right there with Daniel Jones, I think, in terms of not elevating their team and having some just blatant mistakes. Seahawks, Geno's been better. 49ers, Brock Purdy, guys. Brock Purdy, I don't want to hear anymore. Brock Purdy needs a team and all this bullshit. Brock Purdy is crushing right now, and they're 2-2, so he's not like dominating. But that dude lost. He had no Kittle, no Debo, no McCaffrey last week, and he lit up the scoreboard with 3-4 touchdowns. So Brock Purdy, don't give me that BS that Brock Purdy's not that good, or Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, or Brock Purdy needs a great team. Jalen Hurts needs a great team more than Brock Purdy does. I mean, Brock Purdy's playing great right now. Arizona, Kyler Murray's been better. Rams, Matt Stafford, better. Vikings, Sam Darnold, better. Jared Goff, Lions, better. Bears, Caleb Williams, I'll give Jalen the edge on that. Packers, it's been kind of a wash. Jordan Love missed 2 games, but I think Jalen's been better than him. Baker Mayfield, way better than Jalen right now this year. He's 3-1, playing great football right now. Falcons, Kirk Cousins, you could argue he's been a little bit better. Saints, Derek Carr, they're back to 2-2. So, probably a push with Derek Carr, but he has looked better when his best games were better than Jalen's best games, and then Panthers obviously not. So, I think Jalen's right around 15, man. He's right around 15 right now, and that's not good when you have high expectations for your quarterback. Brian Pumper checks in. Zander, Jalen Hurts is a top 10 QB if you disregard his turnovers. I can't with the church of Jalen Hurts. Brian, you're right, because I made that excuse last week. And I'm like, Jalen had an okay game if you take out the 2 turnovers, and somebody in the chat correctly ripped me, and they're like, dude, that's like saying a criminal's not a criminal if you get rid of the rap sheet. And I'm like, fuck, you're right. I can't just get rid of the 2 turnovers. There's 7 turnovers. He's second in the league right now in turnovers. The dude is just really struggling. Maybe it's him, maybe it's the coaching staff, maybe I don't know what it is. I don't know where you guys want to put the blame, but we do have a problem, man. We have a Jalen Hurts problem right now. And the reason I say we have a Jalen Hurts problem, because there's a lot of problems on this team. But as you all know, you go as far as your quarterback can take you. So if Jalen Hurts isn't going to elevate us with what he's making, we're in trouble. We're not going to get very far. So I'll take a couple more comments here. Kenny Sprague says, trade up for Shedeur. I do not want Shedeur Sanders. I'm sorry, Kenny. I do not want Shedeur Sanders. I like him. He's a boisterous dude. That's not the type of quarterback I think we want in Philly. I'd rather take the dude in Alabama, Jalen Milroe, who's developed a lot as a passer. But even that, I got questions. Are you getting into the same situation where you take an athletic freak? And the problem with that in the NFL, and everybody wants to make it about things it's not, the NFL beats you down. Go on. There's a clip like right now, and I would encourage everybody to go and check it out on Twitter. Actually, let me see if I can bring it up. And it's of Jalen Hurts running his 2020 tape of what he looked like in 2020. And let me see if I can find it real quick. It's unbelievable to watch. It's unbelievable to watch. You guys are going to be, I'm sure maybe some of you have saw it, but I can't find it. I knew I would struggle to find it. I don't think I liked it or retweeted it or anything, but there's a clip floating around on X, and I'm sure some of you will see it if it's in your Eagles algorithm. Jalen Hurts in 2020. He's running the ball all over these dudes. They couldn't get him. He was escaping, easy money. I mean, he made it look easy. It's not the same dude right now. It's not the same dude right now. The NFL has taken its toll on him, and even as an elite athlete, you just can't sustain that for super long periods. And that's my worry with the running quarterbacks. And do we need a dude that just can slice and dice from the pocket? I know it's old school. I know many don't want to think like that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Kadeem, I got your chat, brother. I did get your super chat. Did I? No, I thought I got it. Yeah, Kadeem, right here. I got it, man. All struggling QBs. You're right. I mean, look, you're right, but I think we got a Hurts problem a little bit, man. Flexen says, wait for Arch or Raiola. Raiola looks good. Akbar says, how long does a no trade clause last? Akbar, by the way, great stuff last night, man. Great segment. I thought you brought the heat a little bit. I mean, you were ramped up. I could feel your passion. It was like some barbershop talk. It was really good to have you on. So thanks for doing it again, Akbar, last night, and Caleb and anybody else that joined me last night on the post-game show. Akbar says, how long does a no trade clause last? Akbar, that's in there for his whole contract, brother. So he's here. I mean, Jalen's going to be here. And the other, even if Jalen agreed to a trade, even if he agreed to it, and I don't even want to go down this road because it's just not happening, everybody. It's just not happening. But I'm going to go down there anyway. If you trade Jalen Hurts in, let's just say you wanted to trade him at the end of this year, your dead cap hit, $120 million. If you want to trade him after next year, $107 million. After 2 years from now, so after the 2026 season, $53 million. And then after that, it's $20 million. So even if you wait 3 seasons, you're looking at $50+ million of cap hit. And if you wait 2 seasons, it's over 100 cap hit. So you can't eat $120 million. Ray Lester checks in. Akbar is a clown. Ray, I would push back on you big time. Akbar is not a clown. I've talked to him 4 straight weeks after the game. The dude's a passionate Eagle fan. Just because he doesn't have your opinion doesn't mean he's a clown, Ray. You're going to need to learn how to argue better or have conversation with people in a more conducive way if you want to win people over. That's just a dumb comment to call him a clown because he doesn't think like you do on the football team. Everybody got their own opinions, brother. That's the world we live in. Everybody has a different opinion, and that's perfectly normal and fine. If everybody thought the same, we'd be in an echo chamber of hell. Let's go to my next super chat. Kimberly, thank you so much for the super chat. You're a great supporter. Thank you for all your contributions to the channel and for your super chat today. Kimberly says, Rex Ryan is on Get Up right now. He hit the nail on the head. Right now, we're a bunch of independent contractors. But no team. That comes down to the coaching, Kimberly. Coaching and your leaders. Coaching and your leaders. That's what that comes down to. And I do think it's a fair point. Right now we're not playing like a cohesive unit, at all. And I think that comes down to the coaching and the leaders. So it's a good point though, Kimberly. And thank you for checking in with the super chat. Saquads checks in, member for 2 months. Saquads, thanks for being a member, man. Appreciate your support. I love QBs that can read a defense. Would love to have one someday. Saquads, Jalen is still struggling with that. We'll see what he can do. I don't know, everybody. I think some of you are still optimistic. I mean, Big Trag, appreciate you being here, brother. You pushed back a lot. Where are you on the team, Big Trag? Question for you, Brandon, specifically, just because I know, you had a big problem with the way Cilio spoke about this team, and many do, and I get it. I'm an Eagles fan. Some of the shit he says pisses me off, but the reality is Cilio's starting to look right, everybody. Like, he's starting to look like the guy that didn't view it with colored glasses from afar, and he saw these problems years ago before any of us did, and now it's like we're reading the book one page at a time. Meanwhile, Cilio went on ChatGPT and got the summary and gave us the summary years ago. That's what it's starting to look like. So, Big Trag, I don't know if you answered. Maybe you answered me so far. I'd like to hear your comment because I know you pushed back on Cilio, which is fine. Look, I always like people who push back on any football takes. I have no problem with that, but I'm curious where you are now on this football team. I'm not sure if you're still in here. Let's get to a couple super chats. Kenny Sprague checks in. I'd love to keep Kellen and get Vrabel as a head coach. Yeah, I mean, is that possible, Kenny? Do you think the front office would go down that route with this team? I don't know. I think they like Nick because they like control, man. They don't want a dude like Mike Vrabel, who's an outspoken alpha dog type of dude who's not going to be told what to do. And that's my worry. I don't think they would go there, but I do like Mike Vrabel. How about this? How about this for a head coach, everybody? Give me Brian Flores. Give me the dude that has a completely different defense and is messing quarterbacks up left and right now. How's that for a head coach? I know he had his problems. I get it. I don't think he's going to get a head coach because, he sued the league. So I don't have a problem with him suing the league, but I'm just saying you typically don't sue the people trying to employ you. So I don't know if they would give him another head coaching opportunity. Might be a league thing, might be some collusion from the league, but I don't see that happening. But just a guy like that, man, that switches it up, completely different defense. And if not as a head coach, maybe a coordinator, that would be great. Pump Brian checks in. Zander, we have to recognize that Jalen Hurts is a Timo Taysom Hill. Brian, that's got to be too harsh. Timo Taysom Hill? Come on, Hurts is better than Taysom Hill, bro. Hurts is better than Taysom Hill. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, he doesn't look like the elite quarterback that we were hoping we got. I didn't get a response. Did I get a response from Big Trag, by the way? I don't want to blow him off. I don't see him in here. Tell me if you guys see Big Trag. Just let me know if he's in the comment. By the way, I want to show everybody. Some people saw it last night on the post game show. But big crowd right now. I'm going to show you guys we're working on JAKIB merch. You guys have been asking for JAKIB merch for a very long time. Now with lesser shows, I've kind of done more on the business, not in the business, but working on the business. So I've been working on getting the merch line up, the website and everything's going up. There's Big Trag. Big Trag, I'm not sure if you heard me, bro. I just was asking you a question. I'm not sure if you heard it or not, but check out the merch, everybody. I have brand merch coming, and then we're making some custom designs as well. So check this out. And let me know what you guys think. This is shout out to our man Abe in the chat. If you see Abe in the chat, show him some love if you like this design, because he drew this out on paper for me, and then I worked with a graphic designer to get it made. JAKIB Sports bleeds green, baby. And I was gonna make it JAKIB Nation bleeds green just because I think you guys are all JAKIB Nation. So let me know what you guys think though. The design, man, all the merch is coming soon. I can't wait to get it out for you. I'm really looking forward to everything that we have coming. You guys have been unbelievable. The support on JAKIB is tremendous. So thank you guys for everything. Yeah, Abe did a great job with this, man. So thanks everybody. I just wanted to show you guys that. A lot of fun stuff coming here on JAKIB. So I'm excited to get it all done. I'll get a couple more comments before I get out of here. Abe is cooking, no doubt. I'm not sure if Abe's still in here. Did I miss any super chat? Mad Bird checks in. Mad, appreciate it, brother. He says, like it or not, we need to play out Jalen's Matt, I said that last night to somebody who said, you know, okay, how do we move on from Jalen? And I'm like, it ain't happening. It ain't happening at all. So we're going to have Jalen. We got to figure out a way to win with him. I mean, that's the reality. So, you know, and here's Ray, who's pushing back on me. And Carlos, it's coming in a shirt, brother. I might make a sweatshirt of it too. So I definitely got a lot of merch coming. Here's Ray pushing back. Ray, all good, man. If you want to push back on me, I'm good with that. He says, for someone that picked the Birds to win 13 games, you jumped off the wagon like it's on fire. Good luck with that silly ho groupie club membership. So Ray is now in his feelings a little bit. You're right. I did pick the team to win 13 games, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to deny my eyeballs, Ray. I mean, you added Saquon in the summer. We thought we'd get back to form. You have the offense that we have on paper. It looks pretty good, Ray. I'm not mad I picked a team to win 13 games. I'm not mad about it. But if you want me to sit here and just die on the vine and not change my opinion because of what we've seen on the field through 4 weeks, go watch somebody else, bro. Like, I'm going to give you what I think. The team changes opinions. That's the nature of doing sports talk. I would challenge you, Ray. Every time you have a thought or opinion, go write it in your notes app or go make a voice recording of yourself or roll your camera and don't even publish it if you don't want it. Keep it for yourself. Watch how your opinions change over the years. So to use that bullshit is stupid for a guy that has to go on the air and put sports opinions on every day. Sports opinions change. Players change. Teams change. It's a dumb take, Ray. You're in your feelings a little bit, brother. Dream Green. I've been looking for this, man. I've been working with somebody. I would have loved to have got this before I worked with somebody, but I got more designs coming. So Dream, shoot me an email, man. Zander at JAKIB Media. That's JAKIB Media.com. Shoot me an email right now, brother. I'll get back to you. I got tons of designs I'm working on. So many of them are from Abe too. So big shout out to Abe. Treg, I checked in with you and I said, Treg, if you're still listening, I said, where are you on the team? And the reason I said to you, because I know you pushed back on Cilio in the past, which I've not no issue with. I got no issue with you pushing back on Cilio. Obviously, as a fan of the team, we get pissed off when Cilio shits on our team. But the more I'm watching, like Cilio, like I said, we're just it's almost like he saw this 2 years ago and he tried to alert us of it, and we didn't want to believe it. And now I'm like, fuck, was Cilio right? Like, we're reading the book one page at a time. Meanwhile, Cilio chat GPT'd and got the whole summary and has been telling us. And this is what I was looking for. Trag says Cilio was right. So, Trag, you're kind of in my boat where you're starting to see it. But appreciate you being here, brother. Appreciate your support of the channel. We have no problem with people pushing back on opinions on football. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for checking in today. I'm going to get out of here, everybody. Steve Ike says Xander's really mad today. Steve, I'm not happy. You're right. I think this team is underwhelming. I think they don't play as a unit. I think they're lacking leadership. I think they're lacking want to and desire. I try not to question that with people, but I mean, they didn't even get off the bus yesterday, everybody. 24-0. Boom. You blinked and it was 24-0. Brutal yesterday. So thanks everybody for being here this morning, man. Support's been great. I will say September's coming to an end. September was our biggest month ever in terms of support from the people that make JAKIB possible, and that's our viewers. So last year we had all these shows, all these talents, all these people, the big post-game show, all this bullshit. And this month, September of 24, was our biggest month ever with you guys supporting us from Super Chats, memberships, comments, likes on the videos, everything. So I can't thank you guys enough, man, for keeping this thing going. Obviously, as I mentioned last night, a lot of change here on JAKIB, and I appreciate you all embracing the change and rocking with us. So appreciate it, everybody. That's going to do it for the Birds 365 today. I got to get out of here, get the podcast up of the show and everything. Got a bunch more production to do, but I appreciate all of you guys, man. You guys mean a lot to me. I mean it when I say that. Believe me, it means a lot. So thank you guys all. Catch you next time, everybody. Tomorrow morning, 8 to 10 a.m. And then, by the way, Cilio is going to have a tremendous show today. 2 to 6 p.m. I'll be on at 3:30. He's going to have a tremendous show. I'm starting to learn, man. Cilio, he's bombastic, but he understands this game on a deep level. So when he says there's a problem, you might want to listen. He's not going to be right 100% of the time. Doesn't mean he's going to be right all the time, but the dude called this a while ago, and it's unfolding exactly as he said. Hopefully, the Eagles can change course a little bit. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Hope to see you all 2 to 6 today, National Football Show, and then tomorrow morning on Birds 365. Appreciate everybody. See you next time.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.